Hey yo, what's up my people? Welcome back to Alive with Tony G. This is episode number 2, and the title of this episode is called U.S. Army Segments of My Iraq Experience. I thought it would be cool to share my journey, some of my stories when I was overseas. As I tell these stories, I won't be mentioning specific names because, to be honest with you, I don't care. I don't know who wants to be mentioned. So for that purpose, I'll respect people's privacy. Now, later on down the road, if the people I serve with see this episode and they want to elaborate some more details, then at that point, you know that individual's name or those individuals' names. But yeah, I'll give you a little summary that I wrote up here. Oh, and another thing is I wrote a lot of stuff down. It's just a lot of stuff to try to rehash. I spent a good month just going through my mind and remembering these stories, and I figured, let me write it down. Let me write it down, and then I'll speak to it. I think that's the best way to do this. So before we jump into these pockets of stories, I wrote like a summary of what all this is, and then I'll jump into these little pockets of stories. All right. So let's jump into the summary of my journey in Iraq. All right. So I was fighting ghosts in a Baghdad city. I fought these ghosts from a tank, from a Humvee, and boots on ground. Within my 14-month deployment, I never directly seen the enemy pull the trigger. Some soldiers in my company were fortunate to witness the enemy squeezing the trigger. I say fortunate because I do think it's mentally beneficial to see who you're fighting, opposed to never seeing the enemy that attacks you from unknown positions and kills or injures those on your team. There was one event where bullets almost hit me during a foot patrol. There were a shitload of events where bullets flew in my general area, but not considered a close call. I experienced one roadside bomb. It had a delayed detonation behind my Humvee. All other roadside bombs happened far from me. My company played referee in a city of Sunni and Shia people that attacked each other, attacked the Iraqi army, and attacked us. Sunni and Shia are two different forms of religion who despise the opposing form of religion. At least that's what I witnessed. My interpretation of my company's fighting tactic towards the enemy, more than not, we were bait until attacked. We returned a large wave of bullets to areas we thought the shots came from. We constantly patrolled the city to gain the trust of the locals so they can feel safe and start providing intel on those still causing trouble. We ultimately ended our deployment with a city that was finally self-sustaining and eager to press for continuous positive change. This community's positive transformation came at a heavy price of multiple American and Iraqi soldiers injured and killed. So that's my shortened summary there of my experience over there. And here are the 2 reasons for me doing this type of video on this episode. Reason number 1, I'm currently 36 years old. It's been 13 years since I returned from my Iraq deployment. As I get older, details of my experience start to fade. I want to document what still remains in my mind, and remembering those days helps me push for better days. All right, so that's reason number 1. Reason number 2, I would like to remind veterans with similar experiences that we have already gone through the worst that life has to offer, and we are still breathing. And let's remember that level of mental strength we individually had to reach in order to face the experiences we faced. In this civilian life, we must still utilize that maximum level of mental strength to pursue true happiness in our lives. Use that same mental strength to do some deep inner reflection on your personal positive mental development, which inevitably leads to a happier life. We must dissect what prevents us from reaching true daily happiness and make an action to do something about it. Positive mental development must be worked on daily in order for positive change to reflect in your life. All right, so those are some of the two of the main reasons why I kind of wanted to do this episode. And another thing is, I know there's a lot of people that are intrigued by military stories, and so here we go. Let's get this thing started, okay? So I was an M1 armor crewman in the Army. After doing a 1-year tour in Korea, I was assigned to the 4th Brigade, 1st Cavalry Division at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. We were deployed to Baghdad, Iraq. Okay? So en route to Baghdad, Iraq, we stopped in Kuwait for a couple days before we hopped on a military aircraft and made it to our final destination. During one of those days in Kuwait, my company was brought into a large tent for a briefing on current enemy strategies used in the area we would be patrolling. In that briefing, we seen a video showing multiple scenarios of the enemy killing American soldiers. Most of the footage we seen was recorded by the enemy and was publicized on their news media. After seeing that video, they gave us a smoke break before we continued our briefing. I remember seeing some soldiers that didn't smoke at all smoking cigarettes. I remember when I was enjoying my cigarette, one thing also that sticks out is I seen a platoon of Marines. They were in their PT shorts and their combat boots, and they were running, and they were chanting to their cadence, and they had a guy in the front running with the flag, and I just remember thinking, man, that's cool. Them cats are representing, right? So that's something that stuck out to me. That was pretty awesome. All right, and like I said, these are segmented stories. This isn't a book. This isn't a perfect chronological order. Although I tried my best to try to put these things in order, it's gonna be a little chopped up. So bear with me. This is the style that I'm doing this in. Okay. So on the last day we had in Kuwait before flying to Baghdad, my platoon finished off the last daily tactical training session. Immediately after that training session, our acting platoon sergeant huddled us up for a pep talk / prayer. I don't remember word for word of what he said, but the parts I do remember are the following. He said, no more practicing. It's time to face an actual enemy. He also said, we have to have each other's back and trust in our training. He said, some of us might not make it back from this deployment. We have to be ready for anything that comes our way. And I remember as he was saying those words, I felt a sense of pride to be a part of a group that was willing to fly into somebody else's backyard and be down for whatever came our way. All right, so Baghdad, Iraq. We're finally in Baghdad, Iraq, right? When we landed, it was late at night. A bunch of small-sized buses were lined up with their lights off and engines running. They loaded us up and drove us to our temporary destination on base. Once we reached our destination, I was tripping out on all the tall concrete walls, bunkers, and blimps that were everywhere. All those things were used for defense towards incoming mortars from the surrounding neighborhoods. So that was crazy seeing all of that. right? So for the first couple of weeks, a few selected soldiers from our company did several left seat, right seat missions with the company we were going to replace. The purpose of the left seat, right seat is to obtain information from the current patrolling company on what the enemy is doing and receive intel on the community we would be soon patrolling. While the left seat, right seat was taking place, the rest of us soldiers, including me, continued tactical training and obtained all of our needed equipment and started maintenance on our tanks and Humvees for mission readiness. In the days of conducting maintenance in the motor pool, I would hear constant gunshots and explosions outside the wire. So that was my first experience of just hearing combat, hearing what they call firefights, where they're just they're in a battle, they're in the heat, they're fighting, bullets are getting tossed at each other. So that was the first time I heard bullets and actual like explosions in the motor pool. A motor pool is like it's a big parking lot for all the Humvees and the tanks. And what we do there is we service our vehicles. I was in the Cavalry. We had a tank, we had a Humvee. So those are two vehicles that we have to conduct maintenance on our own, right? To a certain degree. If it was a real complex issue, then we had mechanics to help us with that. But like I said here, while the other soldiers were doing left seat, right seat with the people we were going to replace, me and the other soldiers, we were conducting basic maintenance and bringing our vehicles up to par. So when it was time to go out the wire ourselves, there would be no issues with our vehicles or our tanks. And I just remember doing that, man. It was crazy, just hearing machine guns going off constantly. So just imagine that. Put yourself in those shoes. That's crazy. But anyways, right? All right, so here comes this next part. Another thing that I remembered. I tripped out when it was time to go get our Humvees, right? Each platoon got a set of Humvees, right? Those Humvees, they're already, on that post, right? So we had to go over there and sign off for our Humvees, the ones we're going to be using. And I also tripped out that the Humvee that my squad got, it already had a bullet hole. It already had a bullet hole in the right in front of the driver's seat windshield. These are all first impressions. This is small peanuts compared to everything else I'm about to tell you. But that was my first experience of like, damn, this shit is real. Hearing bullets out the wire. I'm getting this Humvee that we're going to be using, and somebody else obviously was using it and they got shot at. So, yeah, little things like that. Another thing that I remember is, so it was a couple of days, probably like a week and a half, probably almost close to 2 weeks of us, majority of us being in the wire before we went out, right? Before we went out into the city, we were on the main base for like a week and a half. And I remember on one of those days, the platoon would get together and together we would go to the chow hall, right? And I remember on one of these days, the company that we were going to be replacing, they were going to go home because they finished, I think, about a year and a half or close to that, right? I think they got extended also. But the company we were going to replace, they were in line already, right? And we were waiting for the chow hall to open. So I remember us walking and we were going to get behind all of them, right? And I just remember one of their senior NCOs, like he got out the line and he started yelling at his guys like, hey, I don't remember exact words, but he said something along the line like, hey, if you fucking got injured, if you got injured, get your ass to the front of the line, right? Hey, right? Like he was telling them like, hey, nobody give them shit, right? Because there was motherfuckers there with like slings on their arm, fucking all bandaged up. because they got fucked up, right? They got fucked up when they were out doing their missions, and I remember that made an impact on me. I was like, oh shit, fuck, these fools are getting fucking jabbed up outside the wire, dog. And you know, I thought it was cool, right? I don't know, I just thought it was cool seeing all these fools go up front, right? And I don't know, that little thing, it just I'll never forget that. All right, so those days when we were on base, right? We hadn't been out the wire yet. We got assigned interpreters. Each platoon got assigned an interpreter, and you know, they introduced us, right? We all shook their hand and said what's up, you know, and I remember that those interpreters, some of them were new and some of them were already working with the platoon that we were going to work with. I mean, with the company that we were going to replace, some of them were already working with them. So I remember like one day we got introduced to them, and then you know, we were told like, hey, some of these new guys that came and they introduced us, they were going to let them go home for a couple days before we started ramping up our missions, just to like you know, some off time or whatever. So cool, right? A couple days passed by, and then the word that went around, I think our senior leadership, he was like, hey man, those guys, the interpreters that we got introduced to, some of them got killed and some of them are missing. They were telling us that, right? And I ain't gonna lie to you, I was like, I understand that we're like in a crazy area, but because I hadn't been exposed to all the crazy shit yet, you know, I was like, oh, they're just saying that shit. They're just saying that shit to like get us pumped up to be ready, so when we get out there, like, we could be on high alert. I don't know. That's what was going through my mind. But later on down the road, I'm like, oh, these fuckers, they ain't bullshitting. Those fools are telling the truth. Some of these fools were killed, and some of these fools got kidnapped or something. But that was the word, and yeah, that I tripped out on that. I tripped out on that. That they said the guys that they were gonna be assigned to our company, that apparently when they went back home, they got exposed that they were helping us out. They were going to be interpreters for us, right? The enemy. And the wrong people found out. And I guess some of them got killed or some of them got kidnapped. But that was crazy. All right, so let's jump into this. Now we're going to jump into us actually being out the wire and doing missions, right? All right, so in my first convoy through the city, I was the gunner on our Humvee. I remember we crossed the empty freeway into a large neighborhood. The access road between the freeway and the neighborhood is where I seen my first dead body. They had burned somebody and left a charcoal body in the middle of the road. Halfway in the neighborhood, there were 2 to 3 bodies hogtied with bullet holes in their heads. The locals were casually walking past these bodies, carrying on with their day. Some of them were even buying food from the meat stands that were outside and not far away from the dead bodies. Witnessing all this live felt like a strange dream. The houses in the neighborhoods were huge, some of them even 3 stories. All of them had bullet holes in them. People started popping up on the rooftops to watch us as we rolled through their neighborhoods. I kept on thinking they were gonna drop a grenade on me from the rooftop. I was hardcore scanning every rooftop with my 50 cal machine gun. Towards the end of that recon mission, we passed up another dead body on a sidewalk. I remember saying, damn, these fools are doing some gangster ass shit over here. And my sergeant that was sitting in the passenger seat, he started laughing, and he said something like, this is way worse than some American gangster shit. All right, here goes a next little mission here. This next story happened a couple of missions after my first mission. On this specific mission, it was the first time my platoon did a rolling patrol by ourselves. My platoon used 2 tanks and 2 Humvees to conduct this mission. 1 tank took the lead, 2 Humvees trailed that tank, and my tank took rear security. I was a gunner on the tank that day. During the patrol, one of the Humvees received sniper fire. No one was hurt. Our lieutenant that was in one of those Humvees made the call to dismount the Humvees and approach the house he thought it was coming from. At that moment, I remember thinking, oh shit, LT don't give a fuck. The intensity of the situation felt more real when I knew our guys were getting out of the Humvees to attack a possible position of a sniper. After they cleared the house, not being able to locate a shooter, they returned to the Humvees and we continued our patrol. We were now on a slow roll through the neighborhoods, baiting more contact. In a simultaneous effort, the enemy fired small arms at our Humvees and an RPG was shot at our lead tank. Since I was a gunner in the rear tank, I had to maintain gun discipline and continue scanning the rear sector for possible enemy activity. I wasn't able to see the engagements that were occurring behind me, which is up front. I was only able to hear our lead tank and Humvee crews behind me calling out enemy locations in my headset as they returned fire. The contact lasted for a minute or two before it stopped. Our lead tank killed one of the enemy that was trying to run back to his house after shooting at us with their AK-47. After the lead tank pulled up to the body to confirm the kill, we headed back to home base. On the way back, as we were crossing a bridge over the freeway, all of us were hit with a burst of small arms fire from both sides. The bullets that hit our tank sounded like strong hail hitting a window. 2 seconds after hearing the bullets hit our tank, I hear our Humvee over the radio reporting contact. My heart dropped because my tank commander and myself as the gunner were scanning for the enemy but couldn't spot anything. It's a walk in the park to be hit with bullets in a tank, but in a Humvee it's a total different story. That's a real shitty feeling when your boys are getting shot at, but you can't defend them with your tank because you can't see where the bullets are coming from. My platoon quickly pushed through those wave of bullets and continued to home base. When we returned back to base, I seen the Humvees were riddled with bullet holes and had flat tires. One of the sergeants had to be immediately rushed to a dental specialist because the rear of his shotgun smacked and cracked his front teeth as he was shooting off a door lock to hunt down the sniper that initially shot at us. We took our tank to the fuel station to top off for the next day's mission. And there was our lead tank already fueling up. I remember pointing and shouting to the tank commander that was on top of his tank, fueling his tank. I shouted out to him saying, "Hell yeah," congratulating him on his kill. He didn't say anything. He just started punching his chest and started yelling. I remember thinking, that's one badass Native American right there. That was the first confirmed kill for the company on this deployment. All right. Here goes another mission. So on this day, it was a massive joint patrol with the Iraq Army. This was my first time doing a patrol with boots on ground. All other times I wasn't all other times I was in a tank or Humvee. When the Humvee dropped us off in front of a house, I went super commando and was scanning everything with the barrel of my rifle. Two sergeants from my platoon seen that and quickly told me to relax and follow suit. So right here I put fishy Iraq soldiers captured two guys trying to lay down some roadside bombs. They had blindfolded them and were pushing and punching them in the face while they brought them to us. I put fishy because I'm just being true with you guys on just what I was thinking at the moment. This was a massive patrol where there was hundreds of American and Iraqis pushing through the city, and I don't know, just maybe because I was new to being in that world, I was like, yeah, right. These fools didn't see these fools putting a bomb, like laying down a bomb. I was thinking it was more like they were doing it for show to maybe try to impress us, right? That's what I was really thinking. Like, these fools just wrangled up some poor bastards walking. But who knows? I have no clue. But they brought them to us, and so we detained them. And what happened from there, I don't know. I think they just questioned them, and I don't know what happened from there. I just know we detained them, and whenever we detain somebody, they bring them in for questioning, and what happens from there, I have no clue. But yeah, that's what happened there. All right, so this story is roadside bombs, and they call them IEDs, improvised explosive devices. At this point in the deployment, a few roadside bombs had gone off and killed soldiers in Humvees and even Bradleys. A Bradley is a tracked vehicle that can transport a good amount of foot soldiers through small arms fire. One day, I was a driver on the lead tank, and we were followed by a couple Humvees and a tank to the rear. We halted the convoy behind us because the road ahead of us was covered in more than normal amounts of trash. Trash was one of the main tactics the enemy used to hide their bombs. Since we had already experienced multiple times where we came across a bunch of trash and called EOD, the EOD team, to clear the road. And by the way, EOD means explosive ordnance disposal, right? They're used to come defuse a bomb or find out if it's even a bomb, right? So we called the EOD team to clear the road. That process can take hours. I guess we weren't trying to have that kind of day. My sergeant that was commanding the tank that day asked me if I was up for clearing the trash with our tank. This way, if it hits us, it won't be lethal like it would be for the Humvees behind us. At this point, we weren't seeing bombs big enough, right, in our area that would take out a tank. So I guess with me knowing that, I said, fuck it, let's knock it out. My sergeant asked the lieutenant if he was good with us doing this. We got the green light. We did Z patterns over all the trash for about half a mile up and half a mile back. Then we kept the convoy pushing. I just remember feeling good that we did that. I felt a sense of pride in protecting my team. They will do the same for me in a heartbeat. Yep, definitely felt good doing that for my crew. Another thing here that I mentioned is so where we were located at, there was like a lot of you could tell it used to be a rich neighborhoods, big old mansions, and but if you go a little bit in one direction on the freeway, if you go like a little bit south, it starts turning into like farm area. And we would go there to see if there's any activity and then go back into the city portion of it. But I remember one day when we were passing through the farm area of it, man, because all this was going on, bullets were flying everywhere, and you know, it's hard for people to be families in those situations, right? And uphold their responsibilities. But yeah, I remember seeing a damn horse that belonged to a farm area right there, like a farm little house that they had out there. Man, I seen a horse that looked like a damn skeleton, dude. That shit sucks seeing an animal like a beautiful, and it was a beautiful looking animal, but it just looked like a damn skeleton, dude. A horse, a horse looking like a skeleton. I'll never forget that shit. Um, okay, let me see. Here comes this next part. Okay, so this one here is so we got word on one of our platoons getting some direct enemy action. They told me about this soldier who killed the enemy with the 50 cal. He was shaken up. So, on this particular day, when I heard about this, my platoon specifically was on base on this day, right? So my platoon was on base, and at this time, before we actually lived in the city, we were in base, and then we would rotate out of the base to go in the city and do missions, right? So it just so happened on this day we were on base. This platoon went out, did some missions, right? And then one of the young soldiers, I was young myself, I was 23, but this guy that I'm talking about, he was probably 18 or 19 years old, and they told me, hey, they got into a firefight. They actually the enemy was ballsy that day and actually showed themselves and jumped out and tried to attack that platoon that was out there. And this dude that I know, he was the 18, 19-year-old guy. He was a gunner on one of the Humvees, and he had a 50 cal machine gun. If y'all don't know about machine guns, this is one of the biggest machine guns that you can mount on the Humvee. So with a 50 caliber bullet, it's about this big, right? Big ass bullet. He returned fire to the guy that was trying to kill them, and man, he got a good hit. He hit the guy in the head. Fucking head blew up, right? So he got kind of shaken up by doing that, right? So we're on base. We hear what happened, and their platoon finally, they come back in the wire, and at this point I hadn't seen him yet, the person I'm talking about, but I heard, and I was like, hell yeah, right? It feels good when your boys put in work, right? And you hear about it. And I remember going outside. We were in tents. We were on base, and we lived in big ass tents. And then my tent had my platoon here, and then his platoon had a big ass tent on the side of us, right? So we hear word of all this, and we're like, all right, cool. And then I just so happened to go to the back to smoke a cigarette. And when I was back there, the guy that made the confirmed kill, he was back there smoking a cigarette, and I just remember I gave him his props. I was like, damn, dude, I told him what I told him, like kind of congratulating him and shit. But he was definitely expressing that he felt weird. He felt weird of what he did, and which is normal. We're fucking human beings, and yeah, when you take somebody else's life, especially in that fashion, yeah, you're a human being. It's gonna feel weird. But I just kind of reiterated, that we were there, and he was trying to take him out, or his buddies out, right? So you kind of had to reiterate that, especially he knows that, he was well aware of that, but just kind of in a shock kind of state. And I tried my best to let him know it's all right, that he did what he needed to do, and that I was proud of him, and that everybody was proud of him, and that made him feel better. But yeah, I'll never forget that. All right, this next story here. So it's about my company commander, right? Um, so my company commander. Uh, let's rewind the timeline a little bit, right? When I speak about my company commander, let's talk about when we were stationed in El Paso, Texas, right? Doing all of our training to go to Iraq. Uh, this new company commander shows up and they tell us, hey, this is your company commander. This is who you guys are going to deploy with. And I ain't gonna lie, my first impression was like, who's this dork, right? I don't know. To me, he just looked like, he looked fragile, right? He looked fragile, goofy, but he was far from that, right? After going through a combat experience in an area like that, he was far from that, man. That's the kind of guy that you want to have on your team, guiding your team. But yeah, I just remember our first it must have been like the first week that he came to us. They shot out a massive like invite to the entire company, saying, "Hey, let's meet at Peter Piper Pizza. It's a pizza joint over there in El Paso." And he's like, "I'm gonna buy pizza." He's like, "Bring your families or your girlfriends," and just want to introduce myself. And we're like, "All right, cool, shit, free pizza, right?" So, we go over there, and then he was rocking like a little pink shirt. Didn't help what I already was thinking about him. But he definitely was an intelligent man. You can tell that right off the bat, very intelligent. But fast forward into time now. Now we're in Iraq, and man, dude, I was like, the enemy definitely painted a bullseye on that fool. uh, he got attacked all the time. And didn't hesitate to keep on doing what he needed to and be a good example for all of us. Yeah, it was inspiring to see that he wasn't shaken, because they definitely tried to get his ass. And there was word, right, that there was what the hell is the words I'm looking? There was a bounty on his ass, because as an enemy, right, you get kudo points if you take out the leader, right? So, yeah, he definitely didn't flinch or hesitate, which really impressed me. So much props to you, company commander. You a badass motherfucker. And I didn't mean to call you fool earlier. Sorry, okay? Okay, this next part here, hearts and minds. Hearts and minds. So, part of our objective there was to, play hearts and minds. Is we wanted to get this area where we were patrolling to be able to. We wanted the people who wanting good lives to be self-sustaining, right? And then push out the people that were causing chaos, right? So in order for us to gain their trust, we kind of did a hearts and minds, right? Let them know that we're there for the people who want to be abiding citizens, right? Get hearts and minds, and then once we get their trust, they will help us seek the enemy and push them out, right? So I just remember I would always get nervous on those kind of missions because, and this really all stemmed from before getting deployed. You would hear all this crazy shit, right? That they would strap bombs on little kids, and when they come next to you on a foot patrol or by a Humvee, then these cowards that strap bombs on them, they'll blow the damn kid up and everybody who was around them, and so that was always in my head, right? And my sergeant, well, first of all, they gave all of us, like, they would always give us bags of toys, like stuffed animals, and then on certain missions we would pass them out to the kids and stuff. And on this one particular day, I was a gunner, right? I was a gunner on the Humvee, so I'm up there on my 50 cal. And then one day we were really playing hearts and minds on this day, and there was a bunch of kids out there, right? And then my gunner, he's like, hey, give me. He told the soldiers in the backseat, like, hey, give me those stuffed animals. And I never said anything, but yeah, he was just super comfortable around the kids, which is cool. I mean, it's cool, right? I understand the objective of that. But I remember this day he gets stuffed animals, and man, I swear, like 30 kids came all up to the Humvee, man. I just remember my heart fucking pounding on my chest, just trying to play it cool though, right? Smoking a cigarette while he's out there with the kids, like right there by a Humvee. I'm smoking a cigarette, like, oh my god, I hope these fools don't blow up, dog. So yeah, that was something. All right, so this next story here, specifically for myself, was one of the darkest days that I had over there. So we did a foot patrol on this day. My squad was on a foot patrol, and we were. I was in the Cavalry, so when we went over there, Cavalry consists of a bunch of different type of combat jobs, right? And then what they did when we went over there, they mixed us all up. So in my company, we had infantry, tankers, Bradley people, mortarmen, medics, right? We were all combined together. So on this day, we were going house to house, doing like welfare checks, make sure there's no extra weapons that that they're supposed to have in the house. Just door-to-door type of routine type of things. And I remember we had just finished going through this one house, going through all of it, and then we were walking to another house. In front of my squad was an infantry squad. We were kind of leapfrogging houses. They will go to one house, check out the house, and we would leapfrog to the other house, and we're kind of doing that. And then I remember, the infantry, they went to this house. And then when we were getting out of this house to go to the next house on the side of them, we received small arms fire. And like I said earlier, it's a fighting ghost, right? I heard the damn bullets. I know a general area where it came from, but I never seen who squeezed the trigger, right? But and to paint more of a picture, so when we were walking out of this house to go to the other house, this was the formation, right? This is the formation that we're walking in. My gunner was the lead guy, and then behind him a couple of feet, because you want to stay a couple feet away. So if there is gunshots, right, you're far enough away, and hopefully you have enough time to run for cover, right? You don't want to be bunched up, because if one spray can just get a bunch of people. So we, far apart, my gunner was here. A couple feet away was my medic. A couple feet away was me. A couple feet away was an infantry guy that we had in our squad. He was behind me, and we were all walking like in a staggered line to the next house. And then the shots came from the left. I remember we were just walking. The shots came from the left, and I remember just quickly looking, trying to see where it came from. All you see is just a bunch of there was like a field right here and a bunch of those mansion houses, from where I heard the shots come from. But just a big burst, bah, right? And I just remember all of us like turning around, right? And it just the training kicks in. It's just automatic when you get sprayed. When you get sprayed like that, run for cover and then react, right, to where it came from. But it just so happened that when we got sprayed, we were in the wide open area, and anything that was close to us for cover was quite a distance away, right? So I remember when we got sprayed, I remember turning around to try to run to the nearest wall to get cover. I remember just I tripped over a curb. So we were like on a sidewalk, and in the sidewalk it had grass, and there was tall weeds and grass like this high coming out of the curb. And I remember turning around to run, and my foot hit the damn curb, and I fell on the floor. And my immediate response was like, play dead. So I remember when I turned around to run, I fell down, like I smacked the damn floor. And then it's just crazy how my conscience was like, just play dead. Because if whoever just shot, I'm thinking they're still looking at me. And if I try to get up right away, boom, fucking spray again, right? So for like a second, I was just like, don't move. I didn't move for like 3-5 seconds, which felt like a long time. I didn't move, and then I finally, like, I tried to move my head really slow to like look in the area of the guys that were in front of me. I just remember looking, and they were both on the floor, like, and you can immediately tell, like, they got hit with the bullets, right? And I just remember yelling out, like, I was yelling out, provide cover, provide cover. And what I was yelling at the infantry platoon that was in the house, right? That was in the house, like, not too far from us, to provide cover, And in my mind, I'm thinking, like, come on, just start spraying in the area, or if not, just like, get in front of us so we can start picking the soldiers that just got dropped by bullets. And I remember I yelled it out a couple times, like, hey, we need backup, provide cover, right? And then the infantry sergeant that was behind me, he was closer. When we got sprayed, he was closer to the wall in the back. So he was able to get cover right away. And I remember, when I yelled out like 3 or 4 times, I remember that sergeant hitting up on the mic. He was, reporting to the infantry platoon that was ahead of us to, hey, come on, let's provide cover, and then pull these guys back in to cover, right? Into an area, a secured area. So he did that, and then right away the infantry platoon, they came out like 4 of them, and they kind of just posted up and were aiming in the area where the bullets came from. And as soon as I seen them coming out, then I get up, and I just the whole magazine that I had, I just because I was upset, I just dumped the whole magazine in that area, that house that I think it came from. Like I said, fighting ghosts fucking sucks. But I remember just, dumping the whole magazine. And then while I was doing that, a Bradley, one of the Bradleys pulled up to where we were at. Like I said earlier, Bradley's like a little mini tank. It's used to carry a lot of soldiers in it. The back ramp drops off, right, and a bunch of soldiers went out. But remember, the Bradley came up, the back ramp dropped, and the soldier, one of the sergeants, ran out of it. And while he was doing that, right, while he was running, like he was running towards us, some of the soldiers that were providing cover, they went to go get my gunner, and 2 of them, I remember they started dragging him to the courtyard. And then so while they did that, the sergeant that ran out of the Bradley, he ran to our medic, and then I went to our medic too to help him, and we picked up our medic, and then we brought him into a courtyard of one of the houses for cover, right, because there's a big old wall. And it was a house with a big courtyard in the front, and it had a big metal gate that you can close. So once we brought them in, we closed the gate. And then when they closed the gate, I just remember looking, and those infantry guys, they started starting to do first aid on my gunner. And then for the medic that we drug in, it's trippy because that was our medic, right? That was our medic, and training to go to Iraq. He's the one, predominantly him specifically, trained my platoon on all the stuff that we knew, right? And I remember that going through my head, like, damn, like he's supposed to be helping us out if we get fucked up. Like, he got fucked up, damn, right? I just remember that constantly, it was going through my head a lot. But it was a trip, man. He did a good ass job, man, cause he beat that shit up in our head for it was just second nature. And I remember just you know, the infantry guys around me. I was like, I start saying like, hey, let's take off his shirt, right? We took off his BDU top, and you know, and I start patting down his body, cause you you seen you seen a hole. There was a hole in the front of his chest, right? And and then, you know, he told us wherever you see an entrance wound, there's an exit wound. So I did what he showed us, right, and tried to pat down his body, and then look at my hand to see where the blood's at, right? As I was patting him down, and I couldn't see any blood, and I did it a couple times, and I couldn't find that shit. I went to like his pits, and I went down his back, and I couldn't find where I'm just like, well, fuck, maybe the bullet went inside of him, and it's in there, right? But I remember just seeing the inside of his damn his chest, right? I was like, fuck, that you can see his fucking lung and shit. And he always told us, you know, how to treat that wound with a piece of plastic, and you know, put their body on its side, because it could possibly be a collapsed lung, and you don't want blood to fill up the lung, right? So like, yeah, so I did all that, and I remember just telling the infantry guys there, you know, to help me out with everything that I was doing. I think I even asked one of them to like give me tape, because we taped the plastic on his chest, and you know, so we applied first aid to him, and then while we were doing that, my gunner was drugged to the Bradley, and after they drug him, we're like, all right, we got our medic up, and then we took him to the Bradley too, so we could take him on base and they can get treated. And you know, when we were dragging our medic, when we came to the Bradley, the ramp was dropped, and they had my gunner laid out on the floor. Like I say, he's a big dude. He's a big dude. So when they laid him on the floor, like, he took up the whole floor of the Bradley, and you see the medic, like the medic was in front of him, and then I remember we just pulled up, and there was a bunch of blood everywhere, and then me and the sergeant that were holding our medic, like, we kind of got quiet for like a second, because it was kind of shocking to see what we were seeing. And then the medic kind of looked at us with like a face too, like we all just, it was like that was crazy, like that, a 2 second, like, holy shit. And you know, I remember I was just like, hey, what's his status, right? And he's like, he just straight up was like, he's dead. And goddamn, right? But in the moment, he said he's dead. And I just remember, like, fuck, come on, let's go. So we get our medic, and then we try our best to like lay him down, like, not to where his body's fully on top of my gunner's body, but, you know, we had to get our medic in there, so we kind of laid his body on top of my gunner, but, you know, tried our best to like spread his legs so his full body's not, like, you know, disrespectfully on my gunner, right? And then you know, they closed the ramp of the Bradley, and then you know, we helped the medic apply first aid to our medic, and we took off to base. And when we get to base, you know, it felt like a fucking 10-hour drive. It was probably like a 30-minute drive, which it felt like a long time. But we were in a tracked vehicle, and like I said, it's a mini tank, but this thing has, opposed to a tank where it has good shocks and everything, suspension and everything, a Bradley don't have that. It's literally like a tin can with it's a tin can on a track, right? So you just every little nook and cranny of the road, you feel it. So just imagine 20 minutes, you know, with all this chaos inside the damn Bradley, just right the whole way. And then we finally pull up to the hospital we have on base. And I remember, you know, they dropped the ramp, and I just seen, man, a bunch of medics, a bunch of doctors. Like they were all right there. They were ready for our guys, right? So boom, the medics, they do the thing. They grab both of them, and they rush them inside, right? And then I remember they all rushed inside, and just that was it, right? And I'm just like, it was weird, man. You just go through all this, and then these medics come and grab your boys, and they take them in, and now I just remember just like standing there, it was all quiet, and I was like, damn, this is some weird ass shit. What the fuck just happened, right? And I fucking I remember I was just like, I went inside. I wanted to see, like, fuck. I don't know why I wanted to see that, but I went inside to see what they're doing, and yeah, it just at that point it looked like our gunner was gone, because they already had those little NASA looking blankets. They already had put it over him, and then I'm just like, wow, fuck. I just seen that. I'm seeing that right now, right? And then you could see for the medic, like he still had a chance, and they were fighting. They were fighting, right, to keep him alive. And then and I just remember, like, there's only so much of that shit I could watch. And then I remember I walked out the building, and then started smoking a cigarette. Started smoking a cigarette, and then some more of my guys on my platoon, they pulled up, and then I told them that they're working on the medic, and that our gunner, he didn't make it, and then so we just kind of stood out there, and we're just really just waiting, smoking cigarettes, and all you see is two Blackhawks fly in, and then a couple minutes later you see them. They got our medic on a stretcher with wheels on it, right? Holding him out. And I don't remember exactly what I said, but I said something to like try to capture the attention of our medic. Hoping maybe he'd give us like some kind of sign, like that he was all right. And I said what I forgot what I said, but I said something, and I yelled it out really loud because the Blackhawks were still running, right? And I yelled out something, and I remember he just he stuck up his hand and gave us like the thumbs up, and that was super cool. That was cool that he did that, because it wasn't just me; it was a bunch of guys, a bunch of the guys from our platoon. They seen that too, so that felt good to see that he was still mentally there and fighting to stay alive. So yeah, it felt good seeing him do that. But so that happened. They flew him away to wherever they took him to save his life. So yeah, he made it out of that scenario alive. The next day after that happened, I remember my platoon specifically, we didn't go out on missions that next day. The following day we did, but the next day after this scenario happened, they didn't want us to go out on any missions. And that day, I don't know if it was lunch or dinner, but the platoon together, we went to the chow hall to go eat. And while we were eating, the medic that I said, when we took both of our guys into the Bradley the day of the incident, when we took both of our guys into the Bradley, the medic that was in the Bradley trying to save my gunner's life, him specifically that was in there, when we were in the chow hall, he came to us, right, when we were all eating, and it was my whole platoon. We were there, and he came, and he had asked me, he's like, hey, who who started applying the first aid on the medic, right? And then I was like, I applied the first aid, and then he tells me that the infantry guys that were there with me, that, you know, because he was asking around, he wanted to know who applied the first aid dressing on the medic. You know, he asked the infantry guys because I guess he seen them first, and they were like, well, the medic was doing that, and they were thinking I was the medic, but little did they know I wasn't the damn medic. My medic for my platoon is the one that got hit. He showed me all that shit, right? So I was tripping out that this medic and the chow hall was telling me that they were telling him, hey, the medic was applying first aid. But he pretty much was, he gave me props. You know, he was telling me, he's like, man, if he didn't put that shit on his chest, who knows if he would have made it. And it felt good hearing that shit. It felt good, but it felt weird too because he said it in front of my platoon. Shit just, it felt weird. But I'm glad he told me that. It made me feel good. It made me feel like, hell yeah. You know, the stuff that they're showing us, like, you know, they did a good job. They beat that shit in our heads, repetition. So when it happens, you don't even have to think about it. It's just second nature. Boom, you do it. And so yeah, that's one thing that happened there. But rewind time a little bit to the day of the event of what happened is like I said, you know, the Blackhawks came in and took our medic away. And I remember, man, it was just weird, right? All this just happened, right? And in my mind, it just felt like everything was quiet now. Everything was quiet. And, you know, we got in the Humvees and went back to our tent. And, man, it was just super weird because it was quiet, man. From all this loud shit that just happened, now I'm in a tent, I'm sitting on my cot, and everything's just quiet, right? And then the guys in my platoon are kind of, they're not avoiding me, but they're kind of like keeping their space, you know, kind of just letting me be for the moment, right? But that shit felt weird, man. It felt weird. It felt weird that all this chaos happened. Now it's just like dead silence, right? And I felt like I had to make myself cry. Somehow in my mind, I'm thinking like if I just grieve over this shit, let me grieve over it, and then I'll be okay. I guess that was my thought process. But while that shit was going through my head, like I hadn't cried yet. You know, I'm just kind of sitting on my cot, just kind of just thinking everything just happened, and then the company's priest, the chaplain, he came into our tent, and I don't know if he spoke to one of our acting platoon sergeant, and I don't know why they did this shit. This shit pissed me off, but I think the company just didn't know how to handle a loss. That was the first American soldier that was killed in our company. That was the first incident. So I think they just didn't know how to handle it, and so the chaplain came to our tent. I guess he must have asked my acting platoon sergeant if he could get us, our platoon, together outside to talk to us. And but I just felt like he went about that shit the wrong way. Our acting platoon sergeant, he told us, hey, let's go outside, and the priest wants to talk to us. And then I remember we went outside, and he, I don't remember what the chaplain said. He was saying something, and then he asked something like who was there, who witnessed all this, and then they point at me, right? And then he directly asked me like, well, what exactly happened? Like he was just fishing for details of everything that just happened like minutes ago. All this crazy shit just happened. And I don't know, I just felt like he crossed the boundary. Like, I don't know. he shouldn't have asked me that. Like, the shit just happened, and he's over here like wanting me to give him details, like play for play, what the fuck just happened. So I remember I just got pissed, and I was like, man, it's bullshit. What? Why do you want to hear about this shit right now? I got mad. I said some shit like that, and pretty much just cussed at the damn chaplain, and then I took off, and then my acting platoon sergeant like kind of yelled like, hey, and then somebody else told him like, hey, like let him be, leave him alone, and then I just kind of walked away, and then I walked into the tent, and then one of the other soldiers in my platoon, he had already been on deployment and seen all kinds of crazy shit, and like respectfully, he just kind of came by. He's like, hey man, he's like, if you need to talk to me anytime down the road, like you can hit me up. I was like, all right, thanks. And then that was that. And then but like I said earlier, like I felt like I needed to cry. I just didn't want to do it in front of none of them. So a couple tents over was like a little a phone call center. And so I was like, let me go and call my brother. I'm the oldest of three other siblings. The sibling directly under me, I'm about like close to 3 years older than him. But you know, thinking about it today, I don't know if I should have called him and told him that. But at the moment, it helped me to call somebody that I know is family, and is if I cry to them, it's not gonna. That's family. That's family, right? I just didn't want to do it in front of my boys, because we had just got on this deployment. We still had almost, 10 more months, something like that left in deployment. So I knew I had to have my poker face on in front of the guys, right? So I go to the tent and I call my brother, and I just kind of told him what happened, and like I forced myself to cry, and I told him, I was like, hey, thanks for listening to me, bro. I was like, and I kind of realized once I told him everything and kind of cried it out, I had a conscience like, fuck, should I have called my brother, my younger brother, and told him all this shit? So I kind of like went into a mode of like, hey man, I'm sorry I'm calling you with this shit. I signed up for all this shit. It just I feel like I just need to get it out, like get this out of me real quick so I could like get back to it. But I'm good, bro. I'm good. I just needed to get it out of me, but I'm good now. And then so yeah, that's what happened with that. All right. So the day of that incident happening, the following day, like I said, my platoon, they didn't want us to go on any missions that day. But the following day, we picked up on our missions, right? We picked up on another foot patrol mission, and I remember when we started the mission, the Humvees dropped us off, and we got out the Humvees and started our patrol there. I'll never forget this. The day that the incident happened, where my gunner and our medic got hit, one of the infantry guys that was there, they provided cover for us. On this day was our first day back out the wire after the whole incident happened. We went out, and then we were running across like a couple of streets, right? Like bounding over a couple of streets. And then one of those infantry guys that was there on that one day, he seen me, and then he had like a weird ass look on his face. Like he looked at me kind of weird. Like he made like a face like that, and I was like, what the fuck, right? He was looking at me weird, right? And I remember just looking at him. He's like, hey, they already let you come out? I was like, yeah, man. Like, it was weird for me to hear him say that. It's like, in my mind, I was like, well, yeah, man, fuck. In my mind, I'm thinking like, this shit's gonna keep happening. So, what? One incident happens and we just shut down shop. This all went through my head like in 2 seconds when he told me, he's like, they already let you back out? And I'm like, yeah, man. I was like, we got to keep the ball rolling. And he just kind of looked at me and kind of nodded his head like, dang. And I ain't gonna lie, I was pretty proud of myself that shit came out of my mouth pretty clutch. I felt like I motivated his ass, like hell yeah, dog. Like we we gotta maintain this soldier discipline through all this shit. This shit's about to get real, and not only he heard that shit, but all the guys that are around him, like they kind of like nodded their head, like hell yeah, like fucking we gotta keep pushing, kind of let the enemy fuck with us. But yeah, I'll never forget that little scenario there. All right, so this next part here is so not too long after that scenario happened, I guess the higher up leadership decided shit was getting more hot with the enemy making engagements on us. Like it was happening more and more and more. They were like, you know what, we're gonna take you guys out of the base and move you into the city, so you're directly in the city and you can rotate your missions where you're a constant presence is there, right? You're in the city. So that's what we did. They gave us orders to, hey, you move in the city, find a location, and then that's where you're going to be at for the rest of your deployment. So we found, it's fucked up, but we found these two big ass mansions in the middle of the city, or like kind of near towards like the back end of the city, but it gave us easy access to the heart of the city. I guess the families that were living in those houses, apparently they paid them to get out of there, right? And for us to be there because it was more convenient for as far as a battle perspective. And so yeah, so we took it over, and then it's called a JSS, which means a joint security station. So let me see, they named it after my gunner. Okay, let me see here, what did I put? Okay, so this is like our little fort, right? And I remember when we first moved in, right, they had us break all the windows down and put sandbags through all the areas where there was windows. And the plan was to get concrete barriers around these houses and put towers up. That was the game plan, but that was going to take a couple days to get the engineers to come out and build that around our house to where we're going to live in. And I remember one night, we just came in from a mission. None of these walls or towers were built up yet, so we were kind of still exposed. And I remember we heard bullets coming towards our direction, right, in our house. At this specific time, I was asleep in my bunk. In the top bunk, we had like bunk beds in all these rooms. And I was sleeping on my bunk, I heard brrr, brrr, right? And I remember all of us like getting up, and we all ran to like the rooftop. And then I don't know, just that picture memory of just seeing a bunch of us up there. It was like late at night, like fucking 3 a.m. or something, and we're all up there like with our guns. And it kind of funny because half of us like were in our boxers, and we put our vest on and a helmet, and then fucking helmet not even strapped up, just fucking out there in our boxers, fucking seeing where the shit came from. I always think of that shit's pretty funny. Fucking on the rooftop in boxers and a fucking bulletproof vest, trying to see where the shit came from. All right, this other mission. So our platoon sergeant, he gave us a briefing right before we went out the wire, or no. Our platoon sergeant, he gave us a briefing on what we were about to do, and he told us that special forces was in our area and made a specific hit, and that our objective was to locate ourselves in a certain area of the city, And then when we got the word from the special forces unit that was doing whatever they were doing, they were going to give us word to, hey, come to wherever they made their contact with the enemy and gather intel, right? So we were waiting on standby where we said we were going to be, and then the special forces contact reached out over the radio and said, hey, come in and pick up any intel you can receive. So our Humvees, we go to the location where they guide us to, and then on that day I was the gunner on the Humvee. So we pull up, and then our guys dismounted from the Humvee and went into the house, and then what we were told was the engagements happened from the rooftop. So when our guys went into the house, they cleared the house and they went to the rooftop. There were just a bunch of dead bodies on the rooftop, and majority of them had like bulletproof vests on, but they were all dead except for one guy. He was still kind of moving. And so what they did was they gathered intel. They gathered everything they can off of the guys' bodies, like IDs, cell phones, and just things of that nature. They took them off their body, and then they put it like in a bag, and then we took off, right? We took off, and when we get back to the base, we went to the main base where we had like a headquarters, kind of, if that's what you want to call it, and they tasked me with getting that bag of all the information that they got off those guys from the rooftop. It's fucking a bag with like all this shit in it and blood in it, right? They tasked me with doing like a log of laying everything out and doing like a log of what it is. If it's a cell phone, grab the numbers off of the back of the phone. If it's an ID, like write it's an ID in the description. And I just remember tripping out, that I was doing this. I dumped out the bag and just all this shit. I had my gloves on because, like I said, there's blood on a lot of this shit. And then just tripping out and actually seeing like picture IDs of these guys, right? And like some of them looked like work badges. There was even beepers, beeper cell phones, and I don't know. That was great. That was weird doing that little task there. Yeah. Let me see here. Right, on this other mission, we got tasked with going. It was like a police little safe house. I don't know if that's what you want to call it, but it was a house with the police and Iraq Army. It's kind of like where they work together, and they tasked us to go there and kind of use their tower. They had like a tower over there, and we kind of rotated shifts. Like our Humvees pulled up, and then this place where the Iraqi police had this house and they had like a tower. We were rotating, going to the top of the tower and kind of overwatching this road. This was in the middle of the night. It was really dark, and I remember we went there, and then one of our guys would go up there. He'll wait, and then we'll wait on the bottom, looking at this side of the road. And then they rotated us. So it was my turn to go up to the tower. So our guy came down, and then they were like, they told me to go up. So I go up, and I'm up there for like a good hour, an hour or 2 hours, something like that, looking at the road. And then it wasn't time for me to rotate, but I had to take a piss. So I remember just climbing down the ladder. And when I climbed down the ladder, you can't really see shit. It was dark as hell. You could kind of see a little bit like from the moonlight, right? The projection of the moonlight. But I just remember there was a little truck right here, right? The Iraqi police and the Iraqi army, they drove around the line, these little mini trucks. There was a truck right there, and I was like, I kind of went on the side of the truck. I took off my gloves and I set them like in the back bed of the truck right there to take and then I started taking a piss. And I remember when I went to get my gloves back, I put my hand in the glove like that, and it just felt wet, right? And then I was like, what the fuck? And then my weapon had like a flashlight on it, so I go like that, and man, the whole fucking glove was covered in blood. And then I put like the light on the back of the thing, and it was just blood all over the damn back of the truck. And I remember my heart dropped because I was like, oh fuck, I'm about to get AIDS or fucking some crazy ass disease. I just remember I was feeling really scared. And I took it off and I was fucking washing my hands with the little water that I had. I was washing my hands. And I was like, I was trying to see if I had any cuts on my hand. I didn't have any cuts. And I had like the medic later on, like the next day, like look at my hand just to like, he's like, nah, you don't have any cuts, right? So that was that. I mean, we didn't take any farther than that. But I should have known better because already up to that point in deployment, you would just see the Iraqi army picking up either civilians or their own, like Iraqi army soldiers. They're dead all over the fucking ground and throughout the city. We would always see them fucking with stretchers and dumping bodies like fucking all day, every day, stacking them on the back bed of the truck. And I just wasn't thinking, just probably fucking tired as fuck. And yeah, so then that happened. Okay, so this next situation, uh, we were doing a patrol. We were in the Humvees this day, and well, I'll just read it like this. On this day, we were off doing a Humvee patrol. I was a gunner that day. Over the radio, we hear heavy radio traffic. An IED went off directly in front of the house we just moved into. The IED hit one of our Humvees. The IED killed all 4 soldiers in that Humvee. I just remember feeling shocked that an IED that huge was in front of our house this entire time. All of us in the Humvee, in my Humvee, were silent as we hear radio traffic discussing how they're going to secure the Humvee and the bodies. So yeah, that day was crazy. The company took a big loss. They lost 4 soldiers in one scenario, right in front of us, right in front of the house we lived in. And that bomb, for as huge as it was, it had to have been put there before we started living in that house. They were just probably under the ground right there for who knows, probably even a couple months, and then they just probably picked the right time to pull the trigger on that thing. But yeah, that was one of the darkest days for the company, taking a big loss like that, losing 4 soldiers. All right. So this next scenario here. So it was another a patrol on the Humvee. At this particular time, we were stationary. I just remember our Humvee was stopped. We were stopped for whatever reason, right? We were spread out, like 4 or 5 Humvees were spread out, and for whatever reason we were stopped. And my platoon sergeant was in a conversation with one of the guys from the neighborhood. And while they were talking, I just remember from the left side, a bunch of people just started gathering up. And then this guy came out from the back of the house, and he came out with a blanket, like he was holding a body. You can tell it was like a little kid. He's holding the body, and the blanket was over the kid. And you could see the blood like soaked through the blanket. And they were walking towards us with all the people. And I just remember being kind of like worried that like we're about to get ambushed, and at the same time I had the feeling like sad, because it looked like it was a father, right, and something just happened to their little kid. So they made it all the way to our Humvee. And I just remember that guy started talking to the guy that my platoon sergeant was talking to. And they're talking their language. We don't know what they're saying, but he's holding his little kid, and he tells the guy, he's like, some kind of firefight was happening, and his kid just got hit by a bullet and got killed. And yeah, the fucking right there in front of us, dude, the guy's fucking crying, screaming, crying. And then all the people, like ladies in the crowd that he was in, like they were all crying and screaming. That shit was fucked up. That was a fucked up feeling, just being there and witnessing all that shit. And yeah, man. I just remember we stood there for a while until like the Iraqi police came to help, like whatever they were gonna do. And then we just kind of carried on with our day and kind of reported it to higher up of what just happened. And yeah, that just felt ugly. That felt ugly witnessing that. Another scenario that felt ugly. It's fucking war, man. Fucking some fucked up shit happens. But this other scenario, on this day, I was on QRF, and at this time we were living in the house we lived in, and we had a rotating QRF, is a quick reaction force, and what that means is you have a platoon ready at the drop of a dime if something happens. So QRF, you'll have 4 Humvees, and somebody will be manning the Humvees, all the Humvees. They'll keep the engines running, keeping them warm, making sure the radios are up. And then all the guys that belong to those Humvees, they're like not too far from the Humvee. So if we get a report on the radio, in fucking matter of 2 minutes, we're all in the Humvees going out the wire to go fucking help or attack or do whatever we need to, right? It's a quick reaction force. So on this particular night, we were called up. Earlier that day, I remember we dropped off we have a sniper in our company, and early that morning, we had dropped off a sniper in one of the houses that were near one of the main access roads. That main access roads, we were getting fucked up by bombs. Our company was getting hit heavy by IEDs on this long stretched out road. So what they did was, hey, let's plant one of our snipers on one of these rooftops to overwatch this road, right? So on this day, early in the morning, we dropped off our guy, and it was just him by himself. We dropped him off, and then we took off, right? We tried to do it like quick as possible. And he went up to the top and he stood there like for almost the whole fucking day. And then during the nighttime, we get the QRF call, and he fucking we got the call, and it was directly involved with him, the sniper. He seen somebody fucking actually laying down a fucking bomb, and it was in the middle of the night, like fucking 2 in the morning, like late at night. And so the sniper had the permission to, if he seen somebody physically dropping the bomb, to take him out, and that's what he did. And the fucked up part of this story is the sniper, he sees this little mini car pull up, with the lights off, and then he parks on the side of this main road, and he gets out and he sees him, he's trying to like cover it up with trash or do whatever he's doing, right? And boom, he takes him out. The fucked up part is this guy was a dad, and he had his son in the fucking car while he was doing his fucking dirt over here. And man, fucking the dad got killed for fucking trying to do some bullshit. And how fucked up, his kid was in the vehicle and fucking pretty much seen his dad get killed. But they call us up, QRF, hey, get on down here, because when that happened, when the sniper took him out, uh, this guy that just got killed, he must have had his guys watching him while he was doing it, right? So apparently, when he was dropping the bomb down there, right, on the other side of the road, there was like a big old another neighborhood, right, another set of houses. When the sniper took him out, all the guys from this side seen that the sniper just took their guy out, and they must have seen the muzzle flash where it came from. They started all blasting at the rooftop where our sniper was at, and that's when QRF got called, and we rushed. We haul ass down there, and when we get down there, by the time we get down there, which was just like literally down the block from the house we lived, by the time we get down there, like the bullet stopped, right? But we heard all this contact over the radio. Like, you hear the bullets over the radio as they were calling, hey, get down here. But when we get down there, like, it stopped, right? But still, we tactically, like, we went in front of that vehicle where it was parked at. And at this time, we didn't know there was a kid in the car, right? But we get there, and then we kind of spread out our Humvees. And then, our sniper guy, he runs down. And then while he's running down, the contact picks up again. Boom, boom, boom. And you just see tracers going everywhere. Do, do, do. And then all of us, we just fucking middle of the night. You can't see shit, but you just see the tracers coming from the houses, right? So we're fucking just shooting everywhere we see tracers. And like I said, I was the gunner on the Humvee. So I'm fucking, right, we're blasting, right? And then one of my guys that was in the Humvee, I guess they figured out, hey, this guy had a kid in his car. So they grabbed the kid and they brought him into the Humvee I was in. And then I just remember being caught off guard. Like, my guy came to the door. He's like, hey, watch him. I'm like, what the fuck? What the hell's going on? He's like, he was in that car. And I was like, I still didn't gather, but I just knew it was a little kid, right? It's a little kid that's fucked up. And then the little kid just looks super scared, right? Fucking all these boom, 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 all this shit's going on. And the kid just he just looked really scared, like shocked, right? So, I remember he sat down here, my boy closed the door, and I told him, it's okay, man. I remember just patting him on the shoulder, and I was like, come right here in the middle, between my legs pretty much, because as a gunner, you're standing up. And I told him, just sit right here, man, you're good, man. And I was tapping him on the shoulders, like, it's all right, buddy. And he was kind of like, he wasn't crying, but he was like whimpering, like he was getting ready to cry. And I was hitting his shoulders, like, it's all right, buddy, it's all right. You're going to be okay, right? And so the bullet stopped, right? It kind of stops. And then the guys load back into the Humvee. And then my sergeant, he gets back to the front seat and he's calling up. And he's having communications with the lieutenant, saying like, hey, what do we do? And they're like, well, let's wait. They wanted us to wait for the Iraqi army to come pick up the body that the sniper killed. They wanted to come pick up the body, and then we were gonna follow them. For some reason, they wanted to take them onto our base, the big base, and then so we did that, right, with the kid in our Humvee, and we went to the base, and I don't know what they did with the dead body, but we went on base. And then we were waiting there for a long time. I don't know if they're writing a report of this guy, or they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with the dead body. And then, and man, still to this day, I'm like, man, this is fucked up. What happens next? But I guess the higher ups told my platoon sergeant, hey, just take the kid back to his house, because I guess the kid told the interpreter, like, his mom, like, he has a mom that lives in the house not too far of where all this happened. So they told us to take him back to his house. So we took him back to his house, and this is the middle of the night. This time it's already like 5 a.m. now, right? We got this kid back in our Humvee, and then this kid, probably 10 years old. He gets back in the car, in the Humvee, and we go back in the middle of the night. Keep in mind, there isn't fucking street lights. It's like, and this part of town was like the farm part of it. Remember I told you it's like a farm area in the city area? This was like the farm part of the area, and we kind of drove in deep, and there's really no street lights over there, right? So we go, and then he says, like, he pointing, that's his house. And then, and then we just let him out, and he just walks in, and we're just kind of waiting there to see till like he walks to the door, and then we just left. And man, that I always think of that. That's fucked up, dude. A part of me wishes I would have like spoke up a little more, like to my platoon sergeant, and be like, hey, let's make sure his mom's there. Like, what if there's nobody there? I don't know, man. That shit just felt dark doing that. Dropping a little kid off, he just fucking seen his dad get killed, and you're dropping him back off into this dark ass woods, this dark ass farm looking area, the house looked all dark too. And then, man, we just rode out through the night, and went back home. That one was fucked up. That was a fucked up situation, man. On this next mission, let me read this off to you here. So, on this day, we were doing a 2-tank, 2 Humvee patrol. Our lieutenant that was in one of the Humvees reported that they were receiving contact. He pinpointed the rooftop it was coming from and said they have secured the front and back of the house with both Humvees. Since at this time enemy activity was constant during this time period, we had been given permission to use our tank's 120mm main gun canister round on this target. To paint a picture of what this canister round is, it's a 50-pound round. It's about 2.5 feet tall. Once it's fired, it shoots out like 1,000 BBs, like a shotgun round. I was the driver on the tank this day. The lieutenant guided us directly in front of the house, and once my tank commander loaded the canister round in the main gun, we told the Humvee behind us, we told the Humvee that was behind the house to back up. Then we shot a round through the house. Once the dust settled, the tank commander loaded another round, and we shot the house again. Part of the second floor collapsed, and the entire house had thousands of holes through it. That was the first time that we used the main gun on our tank to shoot at something. And I remember we were just pumped up because there was a high chance, if there was a guy in there, that if there was somebody in there, we just killed them. And it felt good fucking delivering a little bit of justice after all the bullshit. So yeah, that was that. All right, so this other day, another rolling patrol on the Humvee. This one kind of fucking stood in my head for, at least the image of it stood in my head for a minute. At this point, I had already seen fucking a bunch of dead bodies. I had already seen a bunch of shit already at this point in deployment, but this one was fucking nasty. Just, we're rolling through, and we were going to wherever we needed to in the Humvee, and we were kind of doing a slow roll, and another dead body on the floor, as fucking was kind of normal routine, seeing these fucking bodies all over the place. But this one was extra. It was fucking extra graphic because I was the gunner on the Humvee, so I was standing up looking right, and remember we just kind of did a slow roll, and then this guy looked like probably late 30s, just laid on the floor. I remember just his hand was like that, and I'm thinking the only way this could have happened is fucking somebody shot him in the head with a shotgun. But just remember just seeing this guy laid out like that, and fucking like half of his head right here, like this right here, from his eye up to all the way to the top of his head, it was just gone, like blasted off. and you just see the whole inside of his brain and inside of his head. And that was like one of the nastiest shit that I seen. Just fucking right there in the middle of the road, half a fucking head missing. That shit was fucking nasty. Right. All right. So this next scenario here is between one of the guys in my platoon. We had already been there for a fucking cool minute. Probably more than 6 months. We had already been there. Probably a little bit more than that, but myself, I remember I already, it was a long day. And trust me, you have plenty of them over there. It was a long day, hot day, and when we finally come into our house where we live at to like take a rest before we gotta pick up our missions again, man, when we get into the gate, when we get into our house where we live at, like, it's like routine, like maintenance your weapon and make sure it's ready so when you get up for the next day's mission, shit's already fucking cleaned and your vehicles are prepped, or yourself, all your ammo and everything. Like, you do the prep and then you go to sleep. You try to get as much sleep as possible. So, as soon as you get home, you try to do the maintenance shit real quick and try to get to sleep, and try to get as much Z's as you can, because sometimes the sleep was fucking 3 hours, 4 hours. If you got lucky, you got a little more than that. But you never knew how much sleep you were going to get until they fucking woke you up again to go fucking ride out. So on this particular day, well, I was particularly drained the fuck out, tired. Remember, we got in fucking late at night. And like I mentioned earlier, all of us that lived in this house, it was a couple of platoons. And in each of these rooms, there was like fucking 10 of us like living in one room. We had like multiple bunk beds in like all these small rooms. So there was a lot of us that lived in same rooms, right? But, up to this point, we never really had a problem. We all respected that, we're all fucking dog shit tired when we come from a mission. So everybody would kind of like keep it down, keep the lights off. And we all understood that. So we all respected each other's sleep. So when fools came in, if you need to do something, you would go out to like the living area of the house, and fucking keep it quiet because, motherfuckers are trying to sleep. So, I get in from the mission, I do my maintenance, and I go to bed like I'm fucking ready. I'm ready to crash the fuck out. So I go on the top of my bed, and I lay down, and I close my eyes, and one of the other guys, he was on the top of his bed, and I could just hear him like he was on his laptop, and he was playing the game, and he was fucking like, I could hear like the buttons he was pushing to play the game, and then the mouse clicking. And while he was doing that, he had a headset on. He was talking to his old lady back at home, right? And I let it go on for like a minute, but my blood was boiling that whole minute. Like, couldn't believe this motherfucker didn't respect the unknown rule, right? So, I get off my bed, and no, at this point, I didn't even get off my bed. I kind of like, hey, yell out his name, and he's like, hey, well, what's up, man? I'm like, hey, man, can you keep it down? I'm trying to get sleep. I'm dog shit tired, bro, and I gotta wake up soon. He's like, oh yeah, my bad, and then that was that, right? So he said, my bad. Yeah, I'll keep it down, right? So I guess I was really bothered that it even got to that point that he wasn't respecting not only just me. There's a bunch of us in here trying to sleep. He was quiet. He was quiet for about like 5 minutes, but I couldn't go back to sleep because I guess I got bothered. Like, it got my blood boiling. So for like 5 minutes, I was trying hard to go to sleep, and I couldn't. And after like 5 minutes, like, he did it again, right? He's fucking, right? And then again, I'm just like, oh, this motherfucker, right? And again, like, hey, what's up, dude? Right? And And then he's like, oh, fuck. He's like, I thought you were asleep already, you know? I was like, nah, bro, fuck, I'm still awake. I'm fucking trying to go to sleep, but you keep hitting your shit, right? And like, I'm pissed, but I'm doing a low tone voice, and it's still kind of like a casual thing, but he could tell that I'm mad. He's like, all right. And then kind of the same situation happens again. Like, he waits like 5 minutes, he does again. At this point, I fucked that. I jumped off my bed, the top of the bed, and he kind of had like these blankets covering the top of his bed, kind of like for privacy. And so I jumped off my bed, and keep in mind the room's dark, right? And there's like fucking 10 other dudes in there trying to sleep, but they're hearing this shit. And I jump off the bed, and I pull the blanket out, or that little blanket he has covering himself, like a wall, like, you know, for privacy. I pull it off, and I pull the pillow. He has like his head on the pillow, and he has his headsets on, right? So I pull the fucking pillow off, and I smack him in the face with the pillow, like, shut the fuck up, right? And then you know, I'm thinking, okay, we're just gonna fight, and that's that, right? We just fucking fight and get it over with, like, bitch, and not letting me sleep. And he when I do that, fucking obviously, like, fools get up out of their shit, because they already knew it was gonna happen. They get out, and then they fucking they pull me, right? They pull like my arm, because I was gonna fucking do it again. And then old boy, he jumps off the bed, and he pulls his gun on me. He you know, us as tankers, they issue us 9mm pistols also. But you know, I'm fucking yelling at him, and he's yelling at me, but he jumps off, and he pulls off with his pistol. And he didn't point it at me, but just the fact that he got his pistol with him, and he's like acting like he's gonna pull it on me, was fucking ridiculous. It was ridiculous. And that just tells you that at this point in deployment, we're fucking like, we're in it. We're in the thick of it, right? And this fool, yeah, for him to do that was fucking crazy. But you know, they fucking separate us. They turn on all the lights, and then fucking they go tell leadership, like, damn, this fool fucking pulled the heater on him. And they pull him away, and you know, they kind of tell me, you know, the guy that's in charge of him, right, his corporal, he's kind of like, man, dude, he's like, you can't do that shit either. You know, if somebody's acting stupid and they're losing it right now, and they pull a gun on you, you know, what the fuck you doing? Still yelling at him, like, you know, obviously he's fucking, something's wrong with him. And I was like, man, fuck that shit, right? Just in the moment, heated, but he's right? The motherfucker's losing it. He's pulling a gun on his own guy. But that was something that happened. And I remember his mainline sergeant, right, in charge of that guy that pulled the gun on me, he asked me, he pulled me to the side the next day in the morning. He's like, hey, man, he's like, even though that's the guy under me, he's like, fuck that, I don't approve of that. He's like, as much as I don't want to ask you this, he's like, but if you want to escalate this, let's do paperwork on it, because you're also my guy too. Like, we can't be doing that. And fuck no, of course not. I'm not gonna fucking push paperwork on him. You know, I had love for him too. You know what I'm saying? The motherfucker was losing his marbles or something. And you know, not to jump too much into his business, but we already all knew he was kind of going through some shit back home. And on top of this deployment, that shit fucking kind of drive you crazy. So fuck nah, you know, that was our boy. And still had mad love for him and shit. But you know, shortly after that, I heard a couple missions later that, you know, he was just losing it, because on that day he's a gunner on his Humvee, and you know, his sergeant was in the passenger seat, you know, commanding the Humvee. And they got into some beef, like, verbally. And then this fool, as the gunner, he jumped off of the Humvee and took off his bulletproof vest and was yelling at the the commander of the Humvee that day, like, come on, motherfucker. Like, you know, what the fuck? This fool's losing it, right? So But when we got back home from deployment, they definitely got him some help. Mad love for him. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, he's shit happens, man. Fucking those kind of places make motherfuckers lose it. And that was his second deployment. I don't know if it was his second deployment or his third deployment, but he already been in the shit for a hot minute. All right. All right. So on this next one here is so it was another 4 Humvee patrol. I was the gunner in the rear Humvee. We turned into a neighborhood. There was trash everywhere. We were trying our best to maneuver through the trash. The Humvee behind our lead Humvee got blown up. It blew up. Half of the engine was blown off. I just remember when I heard the explosion, I remember lowering my head, then looking back real quick. The Humvee in front of me started shooting at a guy that was running away, but the guy barely escaped behind the next set of houses. We stood stationary for a while to provide cover on the Humvee while we had recovery efforts on the way to pick up the Humvee. Nobody died in the Humvee, but the 5 soldiers in that Humvee definitely got concussions and bloody eardrums. Yeah. Yeah, it was crazy seeing that fucking Humvee literally fucking half of the engine, it fucking vanished in thin air. That's crazy to see that shit. How fucking powerful these bombs are. I'll read it off of this. On this day, I was on QRF, like I mentioned earlier, Quick Reaction Force. I was on QRF again this day. All of our gear was ready. We were all near the area of the Humvees that were running in the driveway. We had a rotating soldier manning the radio in the lead Humvee. A couple of us were smoking cigarettes and cracking jokes in the outside courtyard that's located in the middle of the house we lived in. As we were doing that, we seen one of our platoons getting ready to start their patrols for the day. As we continued to joke around, that platoon took off in 4 Humvees to start their patrol. During our joke session, we heard and felt a loud explosion. The platoon that just left our house, one of the Humvees were hit with an RPG. That means a rocket-propelled grenade. They were hit with an RPG just outside of our house. Being that we were on QRF, we quickly arrived on the scene. Soldiers were pulled out of the hit Humvee and were being treated. One soldier who received the most impact of the RPG, one of the soldiers who received the most impact of the RPG because he was sitting in the front passenger seat where the RPG hit, was finally loaded into a Bradley once they were able to rip the door off the Humvee. We convoyed to the base. When we got to base, the back door I remember seeing the back door of the Bradley drop, and just seeing the medic that was working on him, on that soldier. I just remember him drenched in sweat, and him having his hand on that soldier's chest, right? I guess he was trying to get his heart started again. But man, that image, I'll never forget that either. Just seeing the medic fucking drenched, trying his hardest to fucking save this guy, and he just fucking doing this to his chest. And like the last time, there was 100 doctors outside waiting. So as soon as the ram dropped, all the doctors got him and took him in. But unfortunately, he died. He died from that incident. this next one here, I called it germaphobe. So I'm not a maximum germaphobe, but I definitely do get grossed out by some little shit. I don't like to drink out of other people's cups or just shit like that, like little shit like that. But I just remember this particular day. We was on a foot patrol, and we was kind of like at a walking pace going to another house, and then these bullets were shot at us from one of these damn houses. And I just remember the infantry platoon that I was walking with, we were fucking hauling ass. It already been fucking, we're walking a million fucking miles already. And then this fucking pop shot happened, and we're all fucking started running to the next nearest house. And I remember just feeling the adrenaline from those fucking pop shots. It fucking gave me like the worstest cotton mouth, and my fucking adrenaline was going like that. And I just remember saying like, fuck, I don't got no more water. And one of the infantry guys, he had like his water backpack, and he's like, I got some ice water, you want some? I was like, fuck yeah. And I remember I didn't give a fuck, like literally just sucking out of the fucking the water pack hose and just drinking that shit. And I don't know, I always remember that shit. Yeah, fuck that shit. When you get shot at, that fucking adrenaline gets you like that. I don't give a fuck. Give me some water before I pass out up in this bitch. On this day was a foot patrol, and at this point already we already determined like some areas are considered hot zones. So whenever we had to walk through some of these places, like when we would approach a hot zone, we would, the rule of thumb was to fucking run through that area, because we deemed it a hot zone because of getting contact in that particular area already a couple of times. So in this scenario, I remember us running through, and where we lived at, the sewer water would run all through the city, because it was a fucking failed city. They weren't maintaining their shit, so there was fucking shit water all over the place. And on this day we were running through a hot zone, and it just so happened that this field area that we were running through, it was filled with shit water. And remember, we were all running through that shit, and like literally see shit going in the water, like floating shit in the water, and we're running through it. And I'm running through it, and fucking like magically found a pothole, and my foot went through the whole pothole. I just remember like almost up to my knee, like my whole body went into it. And that shit was fucking nasty, because it was I was covered in shit water, and pretty much covered in it until it dried up, because the train don't stop moving just because I got shit water on me. So yup, for a majority of that day I was fucking covered in shit water until eventually it just dried up. And remember when we got back to where we lived, we didn't have a shower, so the water bottles that they gave us, that's where we would take showers, man. I remember using like fucking like 5 packs of water, wasted whole 5 packs of water, just fucking going into this little restroom they had and close the door for privacy, and just fucking just cleaning my whole body like religiously, try to get that fucking smell off of me. All right, on this other scenario here, the Humvee that was assigned to my squad, right? There was a camera that they had installed on our Humvee. So like we would go places, it's just cool little technology. The camera, we'll raise it up to get like a bird's eye view of shit that we need to look at. And if I remember, I think it was having problems. So 2 of my guys that also was part of that Humvee, they were assigned with follow this convoy to the main base so they could get it fixed, and they were gonna stay there overnight, and then the next day come back out to the house where we lived at. So I just remember telling my guys, all right, we'll fucking see you guys tomorrow, right? I stood out there in the city where we were at, and two of our guys followed this convoy back to the main base. And then Yeah, I just hear fucking like the next day when they come back in another Humvee, and then they tell me that fucking when they went there, uh, you know, we had trailers. Whenever we did go back to base, we had trailers on base. So when we go back there, we could stay in those trailers, right? We would do like a rotation, like every 3 or 4 days. We'll leave the city where we lived at, like on a rotational basis. We'll leave the city and go to the big base for a night to get some hot chow and like a good shower, and then go back out to the city. So that was kind of our thing. And so on in this instance, right, to get the camera fixed in the Humvee, they followed the convoy. They went there and they parked the Humvee, right, and they parked the Humvee and they went to the trailers. And then later on in that day, they were gonna take the Humvee to go get it fixed wherever they were gonna go on base. But they parked it. They went out to the trailers, and a fucking mortar flew in and it fucking hit our Humvee and fucked up the back of the Humvee. So I thought that was a trip that one of our Humvees got hit by a fucking mortar. All right, on this next scenario here. So like I said earlier, the house that we lived in, we had concrete walls put up around the entire house, and we put a couple watchtowers up. And on this specific day, we were out doing a patrol, a Humvee patrol, and we got a report from our guys in the tower from the house, right, from our house. They reported it down to our officers, and then the officers contacted us while we were on the convoy, or doing our rolling patrol. That the towers were saying that there was a BMW that kept on driving near our house, and it was a car packed with dudes. 4 dudes were in that car, and they were reporting that they looked suspicious, and that they kept on coming around the house that we lived in. So since they reported that up to us, and so we were tasked with finding that car, so the lieutenant could do some questioning and figure out why they keep driving near our house. So I remember we were driving around for a minute, and then we actually came across the same car that they were reporting. And we spotted it from a distance away, and then he called up on the radio. He's like, hey, that's the vehicle up there. He reported to all of us behind. And we looking at it, we can see the car right there. All of them are looking at us, and they kind of had a fucking like a tripped out look, like those motherfuckers knew that we were looking for them, right? But they had this look, and then as soon as they seen us, the fucking car just kind of fucking hit the gas. It did like a crazy little U-turn thing, and it fucking booked it. So just that alone was like, all right, these motherfuckers are up to no good. Let's chase them, right? But a BMW is gonna burn a Humvee all day, every day. On top of that, our Humvee is not just a regular Humvee. Our Humvee has doors on it that are made to like withstand bullets and like fucking explosions, right? So the doors are fucking like 600 pounds each door, so they're fucking slow as fuck, right? And but we tried anyways. To fucking, the convoy took off, and slowly but surely, we see the BMW go down this road, cut, and then we get down there and we cut. By the time we cut where they cut, we could see them hopping on this, there's a freeway not too far from our house. So we see them hop on, and I just remember, like, even though they were far away, I had a 240 machine gun. I was trying to fucking blow out the tires, right? Fucking to stop them. But they were too far away. Even the bullets weren't reaching the car. And so they fucking take off. Even though they're far, we can still see them, right? We can see them. And then we're still fucking trying to haul ass, right? and you know, they're fucking way down there. And then we actually seen them turning off of the freeway into like a, you know, another road. And you know, we continued on. We're like, all right, fucking, let's cut in there, right? We were still trying. And then we cut into that road. And when we cut in, we get off the freeway. When we cut into that road, the car we were chasing, it was stopped in the middle of the road, and all the doors were open. And you know, so the car was stopped. It was kind of stopped, like where it stopped. There was it was like a two lane road, where this side of the road was to go up this way, and the other lane was the cars coming this way, right? So, but the car was stopped like in the middle of the road with all the doors open. And then you know, so we approached that vehicle. And then it just so happened, because the car stopped right there, it stopped all the cars trying to come the opposite way. It stopped them, right? So it's crazy, because we pull up behind that vehicle, and like we stop short of it, right? You don't want to get too close to it, because you don't know if these fools got some shit in there. But we kind of stopped a little distance away from it. And then all the people that were stopped on the other side of the road, they're kind of sticking their heads out, and then they're all pointing towards the field, right? So where this car stopped, on the right side and the left side, they're just a field, big ass fields. And it's just like what do they call them, like corn crop or whatever, like these big ass plants are like fucking 10 feet off the ground, like they're half the ground. These people, like, they're pointing that they ran into the field. So we kind of stood there for a minute, and I ain't gonna lie, we just started fucking spraying the field, right? Because these motherfuckers were stalking our home where we were at. And fuck that, at this point, a lot of us already got fucking a lot of soldiers in our company already got killed. So we weren't having that shit, right? So they pointed like they're in the field, right? And you know, all these plants were fucking so high up, like, fuck, are we just gonna go in there fucking blind and get fucked up by these fools? Hell nah. So I just remember we just started fucking spraying the whole fucking crop field right there. But there was no confirmed hits. We didn't confirm that we hit any of them, because we couldn't see nothing, right? We were just fucking spraying in an open field. And you know, once they do that and we kind of stop shooting, they go check in the vehicle. And in the vehicle, in the trunk, they had like a bunch of bulletproof vests and masks and shit. The next was got somebody inside the vehicle, the BMW, and they drove it out into that same field. They drove it out there into the field, and we fucking pancaked the car with the tank. And it was one of my sergeants from my platoon. He was in his tank that day. And one thing that he did before they pancaked the BMW was they took off the BMW emblem from the car, and took it off, and then he put it in his pocket, and then he got back in his tank, and he pancaked the BMW. And you know, I didn't know what he was doing at the time. I didn't know what he was doing. I just remember him getting off and getting back on. But later on that day, he gave me the BMW emblem. You know, which is pretty cool. He knew I was still hurting from my gunner getting killed, and you know, that was a small way of him saying, like, you know, we're still in this shit. We're still gonna fucking try our best to serve justice when it's possible, right? But yeah, that's what happened with that shit. So here goes on this other day, right? It was a large scale patrol. I remember it was a big effort. A lot of us were out there. Another big push through the city. And you know, I heard this shit over the radio, right? to be honest with you, on this day, I can't remember if I was in a tank or a Humvee, but I remember hearing it over the damn fucking radio. You know, another one of our platoons in a different area of the push to the city, they got fucking hit by an IED, and apparently it was fucking a big ass IED. And it was big enough to do this, right? So, you know, finding out later on what happened, that's how I know. At the moment, we didn't know exactly what happened. We just knew a fucking tank got hit with an IED. But what happened was, you know, this tank was rolling over some fucking trash. Like I said earlier, there's a bunch of trash everywhere. You know, the tank tried to roll over this trash to get in front of this certain area, so the troops on the ground can, you know, run by this area. I guess the tank was trying to do like a protect their movement as they were moving, right? So he ran over this trash area through this field, and it fucking blew up under the track. And the way the inside of a tank is you have a gunner like sitting right here, and then like directly above him is another seat for the tank commander. And the tank commander also has like a it looks like a remote control, but it's used to like maneuver the main gun on the tank. The gunner has the authority, and so does the tank commander. They both got fucking access to it with these handles, right? And the tank commander has this joystick, right, to control that. And apparently this bomb was so fucking big, it exploded under the tank that the tank commander, and this tank commander, he's a big dude. He's probably easy fucking like 200 pounds. Big ass dude that was a tank commander. And you know, so when the explosion went on under the tank, he had his hand on the joystick, right, on the fucking lever there. When it blew up, it catapulted his body up off the seat, and his fucking hand was on the lever, and it happened so quickly and so like ferociously, right? The fucking impact threw his whole body up, and his hand was on the lever, that it fucking ripped open. I don't know what you call this, but it ripped all that open all the way up right here. Like it ripped it fucking ripped it open nasty style, right? So you know, that happened, and they had to rush him to I can't remember if they flew him to Germany, but it was a severe thing. I know it was a severe thing. I'm pretty sure they flew him out. They had to get him fixed up, but the cool thing that was kind of like motivating out of that ugly situation is to see him back with us a couple months later. You know, I thought he was gonna be out of the count as far as returning back to the deployment to finish off the deployment with us. Nah, man, he fucking like a real motherfucking soldier, a real G. He went off and fucking came back, and I remember just being like tripping out, because he lived in the house with us, right? And just seeing him fucking strolling again one of those days. Like, oh shit, he's fucking back. And he showed us his hand. He had all these fucking crazy ass looking stitches from right here all the way back to like almost to his wrist. And so that was definitely motivational. I'm pretty sure not for me, but for all the other soldiers, to see an old sergeant make it back, not giving a fuck, ride or die with his boys, right? So that was cool. Okay, let me see here. Okay, so there was another scenario. Well, it was supposed to be like a quick stop. One things that we did, one of our main objectives also was to like train the Iraqi army on how we do things, so that they can adapt these methods. So when we leave, you know, we know that they have the proper training to continue training others to defeat the enemy there, right? So we would do like a quick, what would you call it, like stop and go. Like we'll go to all the checkpoints where the Iraqi army was at, and kind of see how they're conducting their inspections, shit like that. or we'll stop by safe houses, right? Because they will have checkpoints in front of the safe houses too, right? So on this particular day, we stopped in front of a checkpoint that was in front of one of the Iraqi army houses. It was kind of like, it was supposed to be like a quick stop, and then the lieutenant and the soldiers that dismounted, kind of doing their checks and kind of doing security while we're doing the checks, right? So it was like a quick stop, and the lieutenant got off and a couple soldiers, and then they kind of ventured off like to the side right there, and the lieutenant was talking to their main senior guy, right? And then it was crazy, man. And even till like right now, I'm like, damn, how come we didn't react to it? But I guess we were just like, fuck it, nothing happened. But this is where I'm going with this, right? My lieutenant walks off, he talks to the senior guy, and behind us, like one of these fucking little cars, right? It came behind us, and somebody came out the window and went, like it fucking took like 2 pop shots with a pop, 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 right? And it just went boom, and then when that happened, the car turned into the road like that. But pretty much us in the vehicles, we just kind of like the gunners, we just kind of like ducked down because we were facing the other way, and this fucking car real quick just pop pop made like a little quick drive by pop pop. And I remember one of the senior guys from inside the Iraqi house, that fool, he ran out like in his boxers, and fucking, it looked like some Tony Montana shit. This fool just came out and he just fucking pop 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 pop. And then motherfucker like ran down to the corner and was like fucking just. And then that was it. That was all that happened. That was fucking like a weird thing, because probably I just don't remember, but probably the Humvees behind me probably engaged. But I just remember it was like real monotone situation. Like it was just like And yeah, that was to the extent of that. And now that I think about it, I think one of the Iraqi army Humvees fucking like went chasing, but for us it was just kind of like which yeah, that's pretty fucking weird now that I think about it. I remember feeling weird, like I guess this shit's normal now. Fucking little pop shots, the fuck. Okay, so another mission, right? Kind of related to these Iraqi checkpoints, right? And this day we were coming back to our house because like I don't know if we were done for the day or what, but I remember we were coming back to the house, and then boom, we hear a loud explosion, and then they tell us to reroute from coming home to going to where the explosion happened. So yeah, a fucking what do they call it, a VBIED. So it's I'm looking over here, the camera's here. It's an explosion in the car. So what they did was a car came to the checkpoint where it has to stop, right, where these inspections happen at these checkpoints. The car pulled up, and the fucking car exploded, and it was an Iraqi army checkpoint, to just check the vehicles. And yeah, they fucking blew those motherfuckers up, and they called us there. I was the gunner on the Humvee that day. We pulled up, and our guys dismount, and pretty much I'm just fucking like looking around, and yeah, those fools got fucked up. A lot of them were dead, and some of them, unfortunately, the guys that got off, they got to see a lot of fucking nasty shit. Just use your imagination, and fucking shit blows up. There's a bunch of soldiers huddled in one spot, and a fucking car bomb blows up. So you can imagine what they had to do, right? And in the middle of them, going off helping recover the Iraqi army soldiers, right? Pop shots came, and they came from a general area of a fucking house, and I just remember all of us just fucking dumping on that fucking house, just boop, 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 boop. And one of the guys got in trouble because so the Iraqi our guys are helping the Iraqi soldiers recover their own, right? And while that was happening, some pop shots came from a roof. And I just remember fucking like all of us, it was like fucking Vietnam on the rooftop. Like maybe, no, not maybe. It was like a little overboard, but at this point we're just fucking frustrated and we just want to kill these motherfuckers, right? And so pop shots came from this location, right? So we're all fucking spraying the rooftop. And there was a Bradley. So my Humvee was right here. I was the gunner. And then I'm fucking shooting with the 50 cal. And there was a Bradley that was right here, right in the side of us. And, you know, it just happened when the contact happened. The Bradley had his gun pointed in the other direction. And I was pointing in this direction where the roof was at. And so the sergeant inside the tank, the sergeant inside that Bradley, that little mini tank, he traversed his gun. So he turned his gun, right? He turned his gun. And they were so fucking close to me that their fucking gun, we had like, in the back of my Humvee, there's like antennas. It was so close that the gun, as he was turning it, what he was trying to do is turn the gun to the area where we were shooting at, so he can also shoot. But that sergeant just wasn't trained enough to use that. I don't even know if he was trained on that shit, but he traversed his gun and it fucking like literally was hitting the antennas, and he went over. The fucking gun pointed at me, like the gun, and this is a big gun on the Bradley. But I seen it coming, so since it was coming my way, like I ducked already. But the fact that his gun fucking flagged over me, and then this fool on top of that, he stopped, like his gun already hovered over my shit, and I'm ducking down, like telling my guy, like, hey, reporting radio, like, hey, fucking stop, to the Bradley, right? But he traversed it like that, and then he starts shooting, right? And this motherfucker shooting like his gun right by our fucking shit. So yeah, that fucking sergeant got his ass chewed out because he fucked up in so many ways by doing that shit. But yeah, that's something that happened that day. I also remember as soon as that little fucking scenario happened, we went back to the house. I remember one of our sergeants, he was bitching like loudly, kind of saying like what the fuck? Why are we wasting all our ammo? We're acting like it's World War II. He was just, you know, fed up. We're all fucking fed up, but he was mad that like we went World War II on that top of that house. But yeah. All right, this one was so it was another mission was like a large effort, and you know, we're in the Humvee, and this time I wasn't a gunner. I was sitting in the back seat, and you know, we're rolling through the city, and it was a big effort. And I just remember we pulled up to a certain area, and there was like a million Iraqi army Humvees, and they were all out. And then you know, I'm looking through the window, you know, in the back seat, and I just see these fools. They're like dancing and shit, right? They're like dancing, and you know, we're just kind of looking like, what the fuck are these fools doing? And then, you know, it kind of like opens up a little bit, like where they're dancing, and then I see what's going on. They fucking killed some dude. And they threw him on the hood of the Humvee, and supposedly this fool was a suicide bomber, right? And supposedly he was a suicide bomber, and they had him on the hood of the Humvee, and they were all dancing, and motherfuckers were taking pictures and shit, and dancing on top of the Humvee where he was at. Yeah, that was a trippy scene to look at. So every soldier on a deployment like this gets a R&R sometime during the deployment, which is pretty much like you get a small little break from the deployment. So they send you home or to wherever you want to go to get away for like 2 weeks. I think it's 2 weeks. You fly out for 2 weeks and then you come back. But I wrote this note down because it felt weird because I went on leave. It actually, when I got put on leave, it was actually like at the middle point, which is like perfect timing, right? Not all of us get at the middle point, but like when I was scheduled to go on R&R, right, it was like at the middle point of our deployment. And so I remember I fly home. What I did was I flew to El Paso because I had a girlfriend at the time I was on lovey-dovey with. I wanted to visit her. And then for the second week, I flew to where my family lives, my immediate family. I flew there to visit them, right? But it was crazy because you fly home. It's already feels weird because you fly home and it's like, oh, it's a regular life now, right? You just came from this fucking crazy dream-like nightmare type of shit, and now you fly to like where it's like everything's like it's just normal again. So that in itself is super weird. But man, I remember being so when I flew to El Paso, I stood at a hotel that was by the airport, which is not too far from where my girlfriend's house was at. So that was like a perfect spot, right? It was a nice ass hotel, and they had newspapers there, and then I remember picking up the newspaper during my morning little breakfast there, and our base is right by the airport also, right? And then anything that happens in Iraq from the soldiers that are from their city, like it's all over the news, all over the newspapers. So I'm having breakfast, right? And I get the newspaper and I'm looking at it. Yeah, and then it shows, while I was at this hotel, it shows, I didn't know this guy particularly, but I've seen him around, this soldier, right? While we were training for about a year and a half before his deployment, we did a lot of social activities, like different companies, different platoons. We'll play flag football and do shit. And I remember seeing this guy, this white dude, and in this newspaper I'm reading that he got killed by an IED. And I'm just like, God damn, I'm on fucking leave, and I don't know, it just felt weird that I was away from the shit, like this is normal life, and then I pick up this newspaper and see this guy fucking got killed while I was on R&R. Like, I don't know, that I remember just feeling weird that I was like on vacation and then old dude got killed. That felt weird. So there was this other scenario where we're in the Humvee again. I'm the gunner, and we're driving through, and there's a bunch of people outside of their houses on this day, and it was like a sad situation. Like this lady came to our Humvee, and she was just crying, and our platoon sergeant, he kind of like opened the door a little bit, and he was trying to talk to her, and in her like broken English, she was trying to say like she needs medicine for her husband, and like she's pointing, and then there's like a guy by this house that she was pointing at, and like he was missing his legs, right? And she was crying because he needed like medical support, like supposedly he was getting really sick from whatever happened to his legs. And I don't know, man, just the way she was crying, like it kind of like got to me. Like I was like, oh fuck, like it made my heart hurt. And on top of that, what made it feel a little more weird for me is she looked like one of my aunts. And just to see her crying like that for her husband, like that felt fucked up seeing that. And of course, we couldn't do nothing. And we just kind of left once we got the word to keep moving the convoy. And yeah, just little shit like that kind of sticks with you. One day, we were stationary in the Humvee, and sometimes this shit could get really daunting just staring at a road, but sometimes that's part of the job. You gotta stare at the fucking road. And so I'm just sitting there with my gun looking, and it's a fucking long day, and this was weird. I just see a car roll by really slowly, and there, man, if you ask me, this kid was probably like fucking 13 years old, little ass kid. He was driving the car, and I don't know. For me, I was just looking, and I just slowly seen him rolling by, and then I just remember thinking like, damn, this is like a movie and shit. And then I just didn't mention. I didn't tell the guys in here in the Humvee. I just looked at it and I was like, dang, look at this fool. And he was just fucking little ass kid like looking above like that. I was like, holy shit. Yeah, I remember. I remember that shit. So this is like near towards the end. This is getting kind of closer to the end of our deployment. I ain't gonna lie, I started getting a little complacent, and there were some scenarios where I get complacent, and I'm glad I had good sergeants to recognize that and kind of fucking check me, so I could get back on point, right? But this is one little indicator of that. So when I was in the Humvees, as you can notice throughout this episode, I was a lot of times I was gunning the Humvee, or I was a gunner on the tank, or I was boots on ground, right? But when you're since I was a tanker, the weapon that they assigned us as a tanker, we had an M4 rifle and we had a 9mm pistol, right? And but when I was gunning on the Humvee, I had 3 weapons that I had to maintain, right? So on my Humvee, 90% of the time I had a 50 cal. That I would have to mount and dismount after every mission. I would mount it, right? And after the mission, I would dismount it, conduct the proper maintenance, and then mount it again. So when we go out, like, that's maintained, right? So that's just one weapon, this big ass machine gun, doing the maintenance on it, on top of doing the routine maintenance on my rifle and on my pistol, right? So whenever I will have a mission on a Humvee, right, make sure my machine gun's up there, my machine gun's mounted properly, I'm feeding it properly, and then I will have my M4 rifle here on the side of me, right? And then I'll have my pistol. It was I had it right. So I had it in different positions. I would have it here or here, but that was my responsibility, right? And then just on this particular day, I guess I kind of I started just becoming complacent, like less diligent and aware, but in a way I kind of started stopping giving a fuck, because at this point, like, the contact, it just, at the end of it, it just kind of fucking disappeared. Like, it was rare. It got to a point where it was rare when we started getting contact. So I guess that's why I started getting complacent, and I started being like, man, like, these fools ain't even here anymore. Like, wow, I don't know. I started being like, started thinking stupid. Like, fuck it. While we acting on high alert, these fools ain't even here anymore. Like, it's just the civilian people here. Like, I don't know. I started thinking stupid, and that's a stupid way to think. And so I guess, like, being in that kind of fog of mindset, on this day we had to go on a mission, and I load my M4. I load my 50 cal, right? Get that set up. I got my pistol here, and I forgot my. We started taking off from our house where we lived at. I forgot my fucking M4 rifle on the bed, and then my top bunk bed, and I just remember, like, we were like leaving our house, right? And then, like, when I remembered I forgot my M4 rifle on my bed, my fucking heart dropped, and I was gonna not say nothing, but nah, fuck that. You don't want to be caught in a situation where your shit's jamming. You want to be able to have your rifle that you can still shoot it. So I told my sergeant, hey, stop. And he's like, what? And I told him what happened. He got a little pissed off, but he fucking, he kept it on the down low and didn't report it to everybody. He's like, hey, hold on, we got to run back real quick. We hadn't left our house completely yet, right? We were still, like, right there. So we came back, and then I got my shit. And he made up some excuse about something else. And he kind of ripped me a new one. Not really a full, like, ripping, but he kind of told me, like, hey, stay on top of your shit, right? So that was that. But then, like, probably not long after that, there was another scenario, and the same sergeant checked me, like, but he really ripped me one this time. So like say it was towards the end of near the end of the deployment, and I was getting kind of complacent, kind of not giving a fuck anymore, to a degree, right? But we were probably like 10 o'clock at night. We were doing a mission and shit, and we get in the Bradley. The Bradley, like I said, Bradley's made to traffic a lot of foot soldiers to certain areas. So a bunch of us loaded up in the Bradley. And the rule of thumb is when we're in the Bradley, and when the door drops, as soon as the door drops, then fucking load around in, right? We never loaded it while we were moving, and but as soon as the ramp dropped, load one before you step out. That was always the rule of thumb. But like I said, my mentality was like, fuck it, right? Like why we even loading this shit? These fools ain't even here anymore, right? But the shit drops. I hear everybody load their shit. I didn't load mine. Like I was kind of not giving a fuck. And then we start walking, and then I guess my better judgment kicked in. We start walking, and I was like, fuck, I better load this shit, right? So I load it, and he heard, my sergeant heard that shit. He didn't know who did it, but he heard it. And he starts yelling, who in the fuck just loaded the round in? Right? He starts yelling, and I was just like, I just fucking like raised my hand and shit. And he fucking ripped me one. He's like, you motherfucker, right? He's like, get your fucking head out your ass. You motherfucker, we need to stay on top of this shit until we leave. Motherfucker, you trying to not have our backs? Like, he ripped me one, right? He made me feel like shit, which he should have. That's what he should have done, and it worked, right? He got me, fucking snapped me back to reality. And yeah, that's something that happened there. And that was just good leadership that I was surrounded by, that got my ass back into it, my mind back into the fight. So there was a scenario, right? It was another day. It was a foot patrol, and it was a foot patrol, and this place, I mentioned earlier, hot zones, right? And these hot zones, if we come across a hot zone and we're on a foot patrol, you need to fully like sprint past that hot zone until you're out of it. Then you could go at a walking pace. And this particular hot zone, that's where my gunner was killed. So that's why it was a hot zone, because it was an open area. And so we're fucking running. And I'm fucking there's a Bradley there, and then one of the infantry NCOs, like, he's popping his head out the thing, and he sees us running, and he's like doing his hand like that, like go, right? And we're fucking running, and then we're ending our foot patrol, and we're walking back to our house, right? So we live, and we get back in, and the Bradley comes in behind us, right? And then he gets off, and he tells all of us that we're just on that little foot patrol. He gets all of us. He's like, everybody get the fuck outside, right? Like, he's pissed off, right? And he tells us to go like in the parking lot where we lived at, the house. And he just starts fucking ripping assholes, right? And what he was mad about was that from his visual in the Bradley, he could see all of us like going past the hot zone. And what he was pissed about was that some of us were fucking running full sprint past the hot zone like we should have, and then some of us were like fucking like half-assing it, like kind of like not sprinting, not running, like just kind of like a fast walk kind of. And he was pissed about that. And he was ripping people's asses, and he pointed out a couple things. One thing was, we live in a house, right? It's fucking bunch of dudes, and sometime during deployment, we stumbled across a lot of weights, like lifting weights, right? So shit, we got the weights and we brought it to our house. So fuck, there's nothing else to do, and some days are long, and so we're like, fuck it, we got these weights and we'll fucking work out, right? So we'll be working out, and you know, I guess some people were working out to a limit to where it was handicapping them during a mission, meaning, right, like what he pointed out was he's like, you motherfuckers, that's fine, you want to work out, but if you guys are fucking being idiots and exhausting, doing leg workouts and exhausting yourself to where it's preventing you to fucking not do your job on these foot patrols, I'm gonna take these fucking weights away. He's like, I don't want to see that shit again, motherfuckers, right? Kind of saying like, stop doing fucking leg workouts if you can't fucking do your patrol properly. So he was ripping their ass off on that part of it, and then he says this. He's like, he says my name, right? He says my name. He's like, he says that he's seen me hauling ass. He's like, that's how you motherfuckers need to be doing it, right? And then when he said that, I was being an idiot. I was like, hell yeah. And then when I said that, he was like, he fucking chewed my ass out. He's like, you don't fucking do that either. He's like, and then he jumps into this, right? He chopped me down real quick, like, no, motherfucker, you ain't badass. Like, shut the fuck up. He's like, you don't do that. He's like, motherfucker, I'm just trying to make a point. Like, all these motherfuckers need to run past hot zones. And he elaborated on that to everybody there. He's like, that's a hot zone because our gunner was killed there. He was like, he's like, all you motherfuckers, he's like, you weren't there when it happened. He's like, he pointed at me. He's like, he was there. That's why he's fucking running fast past there. He's like, I was there. He was the one that helped me carry the medic. He's like, I was there. He was there. He's like, motherfuckers, we know what happened. He's like, that's why that's a fucking hot zone. You need to fucking run your ass every time. So yeah, he brought everybody back to reality because, complacency was starting to happen and shit. And he seen that. So he wanted to bring the harsh reality of why we considered that a hot zone and why we needed to run. And, another good example of good leadership, snapping us back into reality because, yeah, man, these deployments, fucking, when you're in the Army, you're over there for a year, and sometimes it's more than a year. And for us, that was the case. We were there a year, and they extended us 2 more months even after that. So, yeah, man, complacency, sometimes that shit happens, and it really, good leadership needs to take place. Not even for those being in a leadership role, but even just soldiers. Soldiers, can be a leader too, and I seen that exemplified across the board, from NCOs to soldiers, just expressing good leadership qualities, which was needed from time to time. So, okay, let me read this right here. So I guess my first like big realization of us being in that city and the positive impact we actually made, this is what I wrote, right? So, realization of positive impact we made in the community. In the beginning, we would do night foot patrols through the community. On one particular night, I remember we hid inside an abandoned elementary school to observe the surrounding area for suspicious activity. I remember sitting down to rest on one of the children's chairs that have the desk fused to it. Fast forward a couple months, the school was fully activated and kids were going to school again. It felt pretty cool to drive by that same school, seeing kids having a good time playing and waving at us as we passed by. That was cool. That was cool to see that. And to know you were a part of cleaning up that area and letting them feel safe enough to go back to school and continue, their studies. Kids need to go to school. Kids need to continue learning and developing and socializing, right? So it felt good seeing that. That was a clear indicator that was because of us. And like I said, that was the first time I realized the impact that we were making, which actually felt good seeing that. So again, this is near the end of the deployment. Shit died down drastically. Contact pretty much wasn't even happening anymore. So I was really surprised that this shit happened, right? It was a routine patrol. Fucking people are out and about. Like I mentioned earlier, the elementary schools picked up. It was a regular city, regular car traffic. Even a university that wasn't too far from where we lived, they opened the university up. Like it was like a regular city now, which was crazy from the beginning of a fucking abandoned ghost town, right? And just the fools causing chaos were there fucking shooting at us, to now it's like a full city, and like you actually see motherfuckers that are like happy, right? Night and day difference from the beginning to near the end. But yeah, it was like a functioning city, right? Like a normal city now, but we still conducted our foot patrol, right? And at this point it was more like building relations with engineers and leadership to like help them collaborate with each other to with politics and organizing the utilities with their, right? So we were still doing shit like that, and we would do foot patrols to like speak to certain people to like collaborate those kind of efforts. So on this day, it was like our early morning foot patrol, and just routine, going to the houses, talking to the head of the households, like just seeing, make sure they're okay, how's everything going, taking writing down information of questions that people have. And man, we stumbled across a house, right, where a lot of these houses, they have like courtyards, and then they have metal gates, and then we're going to this next house, right? And it's not like we were doing this shit sneaky or being covert. Like there's a bunch of us and fucking loud Humvees and tanks. Not even tanks. We just had the Humvees out, right? And then just we're on foot patrol. Like, everything died down. It was just routine fucking patrols. And I tripped out because we walked to this next house, and the metal gate was like halfway open. So like we walk in, right? And we walk in, and it was crazy because there's a little motor scooter. It was on, and it had a video camera like on the seat of the motor scooter, and that shit was just weird, right? And then one of our guys, he went to the fucking motorcycle, and he picked up the video camera. And it was like a live video camera, right? And fucking that shit was suspicious as fuck. And it was just a live video camera. You fucking start looking, rewinding it, and it shows like the video camera like looking at the road right there, right? So who knows what this motherfucker was up to. And I don't know how we fucking surprised his ass, because we weren't even being quiet. So I don't know what the fuck was going on, but somebody was recording that area where we were at. And because that video camera was on, right, we did a full search, and fucking found ski masks, fucking body armor, rifles, so that was a big find. But I really tripped out that we made that kind of find during the end of the deployment, when everything was like, it felt like everything was kind of like being normal again. To see that was kind of like a wake-up call, like, all right, motherfucker, like this shit's not over yet, like you still gotta be alert. So that was definitely like kind of glad that shit happened, because puts your alertness back up to where it needs to be. There was, to a degree, that we can use our tanks in this city, because the roads were really narrow through these neighborhoods. So there was only certain missions we can do with our tanks, right? To be effective as far as the tank usage, right? But one of the things that we did utilize the tank for was the house that we moved in. There was a main road that led to where our house was at, and that main road that led to like our house, we put a tank right there, right? Not only because it's in front of our house, but it was also, if you remember, I mentioned earlier, a fucking big ass bomb blew up one of our Humvees and 4 of the soldiers died. That was like right there too. So we put a tank like pretty much right there where that happened, and the objective was to just look down the road, right? And just to make sure nobody else fucking does that shit again. And we permanently kept the tank there. And so what that entailed is in the tank, it will be a driver and then it will be a gunner, right? And that's all was needed for that task. So it was a rotating thing, like, me and my gunner, right? We'll go out there, and then it would be like a couple hours rotation, right? Like you stay there for a couple hours and you rotate with somebody else. And then, for us tankers, that was like every couple of days you would get assigned that task, and you would be there for like 4 or 5 hours. It was a couple of hours that you had to stay doing that. Man, that shit gets boring. That shit gets boring. But it had to be done for security, right? For security of all of us. But on this particular day, I was in the driver's seat. And the way you can look out is like you look up right here, and it's kind of like these mirrors, right? These reflective mirrors that you can, by looking like this, you can see out front, right? So I'm looking, and then all of a sudden I just hear a loud ass explosion in the turret, right? I just hear bah, and then I hear my guy that's in there, right? My gunner, he kind of makes like a noise, like like he made a noise, and then from the explosion, there's just black smoke everywhere, like filling up the tank, and then there's halon bottles inside the tank. So if there's a fire, these big ass halon bottles, like this fucking big, they go off. So just picture this: I'm in the driver's seat, it's like it's chill, and then you just hear a boom, right? You hear boom, black smoke starts filling you up, and then on top of that, the halon bottles go off to loud as fuck, right? And then I'm like, what the fuck? And I got my headset on, and I'm yelling to my guy like, hey, what's up? You good? And like nobody was responding, and I'm just fucking getting, the smoke is filling up. I'm fucking inhaling that. I'm inhaling the black smoke, and I'm inhaling the fucking the halon bottle. So I hit the lever and I crank it open to open my hatch to let the fucking air out, because I couldn't fucking breathe anymore. And then I remember just thinking like, fuck, I wonder if my gunner had his hatch open and fucking somebody snuck on the side of us and threw a grenade in, right? And all that shit was going through my head, right? And I'm like, holy fuck. And nobody was responding. So I'll be honest with you, I thought my old dude was dead. I thought somebody threw something inside, old dude was dead. And whoever is out there is still out there. And I was like, fuck, I can't just leave the tank here, right? Our tank, it's like we stationed ourselves right in front of the house. So the house wasn't far from us. But in order to get to the house, like you had to go around these barriers we built in order to get into our house. So I was just like, I can't abandon the fucking tank, right? I was like, I need to take this fucking tank, like haul ass, right? Because I don't know if somebody was out there or not. There's only so much I can see from the driver's hole. So I remember I cranked the fucking hatch open, and I picked my seat up, so like half my body was kind of popping out of the hatch. And I remember just fucking hauling ass on the tank. I just fucking boom, I gunned it, and I drove all the way around the concrete barriers, and I drove inside. And like fast, man. And I remember just boom, and I stopped, and I fucking parked the tank. And then when I hopped out of the driver's seat, I look up, I see like black smoke and fucking halon bottle coming out. In my head, I'm like, all right, old dude's, he's dead, and if he's not dead, I need somebody to help me get him out of the tank, because he's a big dude, and me by myself, I would not be able to take him out. So I was like, all right, let me fucking run into the house and yell for medic and get somebody to come help me take him out, right? So I fucking run in, I'm like, medic! And it fucking, when I open the door, guess who's fucking in there? My fucking gunner's in there. My gunner's in there, and he's fucking like, he's standing like this, and like fucking like he got burnt all right here, like this whole size body. He just kind of like standing there, like, what the fuck? So you know, the medics run to him and they start treating him and shit. But what happened was, you know, we're the tank's on the road, we're stationary, right? The tank's on, we're stationary. And then my gunner was kind of like doing like a scan, right? He's doing a scan. And then I don't know if it was a smoke grenade or an impact grenade. It was one of the two, right? Like not something deadly, but it was a grenade. Like it might have been like a smoke grenade. One of those damn type of grenades, right? A concussion grenade or some shit. But he had it right here, and he was scanning, right? But it was like a faulty grenade to where when he was scanning, the fucking head of it broke off, and boom, it ignited while it was on his vest. It fucking burnt him up. And then so that's what happened. And when it happened, it was burning, pretty much fucking cooking his ass alive. He fucking jumped out. He jumped out of the tank and fucking ran to the house, fucking getting burnt up, right? But I didn't know all this shit. I'm thinking fucking somebody threw a grenade in that shit and fucking he's dead and shit. So yeah, I fucking tripped out on that, man. You know, I run to the house and he's fucking right there. But immediately the medics got to him, and then we all loaded up in Humvees and we fucking rushed his ass to the main base. And yeah, they flew him to Germany and had to do all kinds of like skin grafts on him to like, they had to take skin from his other side of his fucking leg and his ass and fucking skin graft him up. And that's something he told me later once we came back, and he told me what happened. Yeah, that was a trip. And yeah, so the last week of our deployment, for like the first time, I started feeling this type of way. So my mentality going into this environment, what I did mentally to prepare myself for going into this type of shit, this combat experience, was knowing that I trained my hardest, right? And I told myself, I was like, listen, I'm about to go over here. I was like, if I'm supposed to die over there, then that's what's supposed to happen. That's out of my hands. There's nothing I could do about that. So I might as well fucking work the hardest I can. Don't fucking bitch out when shit gets hard. And then that was just my mentality, like that. Like, fucking be the best motherfucking soldier I can for myself and those around me. Like, if I'm supposed to get smoked, that's what the fuck's supposed to happen. So that was just my train of thought through and through, right? But that last week, I feel like that mental state was kind of starting to fade off of me. And then like that level of feeling like, oh, I hope nothing happens to me, started kind of like, I felt it, right? I'm just like, oh, come on. Like, remember just like silently talking to God, like, oh man, come on, just let me go home already. Like, I'm having these little pep talks in my own fucking head. But yeah, I remember feeling that shit, like to the 10th degree, feeling that, like, oh, come on, please, like, don't let nothing happen to me. So yeah, the deployment ended, and you know, years later, I would say probably like 5 or 6 years later, I think I was just doing some research on my phone, like just looking up like my unit and the deployment, just kind of like rehashing memories and just like looking shit up. And I seen something that I didn't know happened. And So one of my sergeants that I had in Korea, um, he was one of my sergeants in my platoon in Korea, which was an awesome dude, awesome NCO. Uh, he was a cool ass dude, man. It just so happened that when I got, I left Korea. I'm in a new unit. Like all of us, we go to new units. So did he. He went to another unit. I went to Fort Bliss, and then we got deployed to Baghdad, Iraq. And I remember on one of these days when we came back to the main base, right? On this day that I was in the main base, I remember I was walking to the PX to go get some cigarettes. Like I was en route, and then old sergeant, he just happened to be like walking to wherever he was walking, and I seen him. I was like, "Hey, what's up, sergeant?" He see me. He's like, "Hey, what's up, G Money?" And we kind of chit chat there for a minute. It felt good to see a familiar face, and it was real cool seeing him. It just felt awesome. He was the kind of guy that was always chippery. He had like that chippery look on him all the time, and it was cool seeing that, man. And we just kind of said, "All right, man," kind of hugged it out. And I was like, "All right, man, be safe out there, do your thing." He's like, "You too." And we just kind of, that was that, right? Just kind of, we seen each other, right? And that was that, right? And then he still had a ways to go. My deployment was nearing an end, and his kind of was like in the middle. He still had a ways to go, so that was that, right? And then a couple years down the road, like I said, I seen what happened to him. He got killed. He got killed while he was there. And, like I said, he was a sergeant, right? And they were doing a routine inspection on one of the Iraqi checkpoints, the Iraqi army checkpoints. So they would go there and monitor the Iraqi soldiers' process for inspecting the vehicles. And, that was his task. And, him and his guys, they got off to go look. And, yeah, fucking one of the cars came and it fucking blew up. It killed him and a couple other soldiers, American soldiers and Iraqi soldiers. And I just remember being like, feeling like, damn, fuck. I've been out already a couple of years, and like seeing this, it kind of hit me again. That feeling, I was like, fuck. Even years after, like this shit, that feeling, like it hit me again. I was just like, God damn. But yeah, man, fuck. That's pretty much it. That's everything I wrote down. This is a fucking, I know this is a long ass episode, but it just had a bunch of stories. And to be honest with you, there's much more, but these were like some of the big ones that I guess I expressed with you guys. But two important takeaways from this Iraq experience that will mentally help me for the rest of my life are the following two things. One is I learned new levels of mental strength that I didn't know I had. Reaching those levels of mental strength, I didn't know I had that in me. So knowing that I can reach that type of level of mental strength is very beneficial, to know that I have that in me. So that's something that's going to mentally help me for the rest of my life. Another aspect of this is truly understanding how ugly life can get. Truly understanding how ugly life can get, so I can do my best to push in the other direction, so I can have the best life possible. That was kind of worded kind of ridiculous there, but there is something to truly understanding how ugly and evil people can be on this earth, right? And knowing that, right? And then and trying my best to just live my best life, period. But yeah, that's pretty much it, you guys. If you're still with me on this episode and you followed all the way through, thank you. And yeah, man, that's something I just wanted to share with you guys and with the world there. And shit, I'll catch you guys on the next episode number 3. I don't know what it's gonna be, But I'll try to provide some juicy information, some kind of juicy episode. Let's throw a little more laughter in the next episode. But shit, thank you guys for tuning in. This is episode number 2, Alive with Tony G, and I'm gonna sign off.